Hey guys, it's Gala Avery from the Video Archives podcast. While we're shuffling tapes and gearing up for season 2, Quentin and Roger have sent me on a mission all around Los Angeles and beyond to talk with filmmakers, photographers, VHS collectors, and other interesting characters. What are we going to be talking about? Well, that's up for my guests to decide. On the Gala show, guests have 30 minutes to talk about whatever topic they want you to know about. Filmmakers like Josh Miller will tell us how he found his tribe, while writers like Larry Karaszewski will let you know what he considers to be a true LA movie. VHS collectors like Connor Holt make an argument for the genre of pirate movies, while writers like Josh Olson are going to let us in on what he considers to be right-wing cinema. Actors like Percy Hines White will share his love of outsider art, while animators and cartoonist Sierra Nielli will reminisce on his experiences of growing up in a Philly pizza shop and how this time in his life influenced him to pick up a pencil. So, join me every Thursday for a new guest with an entirely new topic. The Gala show premieres October 26th, available wherever you get your podcasts. On this episode of the Video Archives podcast, we have a customer. Rotten Tomatoes Awards editor Jacqueline Coley joins Roger and Quentin as they unlock the secrets of Billy Wilder's The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes. Holmes and Watson take on a strange case of a beautiful woman whose husband has vanished, leading them on a journey of ballerinas, canaries, and even the Loch Ness Monster. Join the trio as they discuss Jacqueline's love for Wilder, Watson's role in the film, and what this movie meant for Billy Wilder's career and the wider scope of cinema. Next, we travel to the light at the edge of the world. Violent pirates execute a plan to force ships to run aground, pillaging their wrecks. A lone member of the lighthouse crew survives to fight their devious plot. Quentin, Jacqueline, and Roger discuss despicable but captivating villains, Jules Verne's original story, and lines you just shouldn't cross. Lastly, a band of thugs who have robbed a casino hide themselves in a villa owned by a wealthy industrialist and his family. This is René Cardona Jr.'s Hostages. Roger, Quentin, and Jacqueline talk about Bang for Your Buck, a war against the upper class, and discuss the original trailers on the Paragon Home videotape. I'm Gala Avery, and joining us now, here's Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery.
Thank you very much, Gala. And welcome back to the Video Archives podcast. Kill the Bacalov. I am Quentin Tarantino.
And I am Roger Avery.
Roger, this is a very special day in Video Archives podcast history because today is the day we have our first guest.
Like a customer come walking into the store almost,
yes,
right?
Exactly. No, that's exactly how we treat guests. Okay. They are informed customers who have nothing else to do, who come out and talk for 3 hours with us behind the counter.
And,
they're not getting paid. We are.
And this was like a normal thing. This was like a normal thing for us because we're there for like 12 hours or whatever, or however long our shift was. 8 hours.
There would be at Video Archives, there would be like 3 to 4 customers that came in pretty much Monday through fucking Friday, all right?
Yeah.
And hung out for hours.
And hung out for like an hour to 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah.
Monday through Friday.
Yeah, and you were expected to perform.
Yeah.
For that, like we would get into conversations, discussions, arguments.
Well,
sometimes we're just hanging out. We had customers who would come in and put tapes away.
There's the cool housewife that would show up around like 12 or 1. Then there's the guy who's coming off of work who always would drop by his tapes on the way home from work. So he comes by at 3 or 4. And then there's just the people in the neighborhood that just came by.
Guys like that Jim Carlo guy who would show up and start putting tapes away as if he worked there.
Yeah.
It's like, that's my job, dude.
Did you guys ever have the bartender who definitely needs to watch something like after they get off the shift, but they'll be out too late, and so they come to you in like the early afternoon and they maybe got their like uniform on? Did y'all have those folks? Because I was that folks.
We had an employee, I remember, who every now and then like would run off to, what was that place right now? Was it Shakey's? And have like a pitcher of beer.
No, English Dave.
English Dave.
Yeah,
that was it.
He was my roommate. He was my roommate for a month.
Where's the pub near here?
Wow.
So, I guess it's Shakey's.
No. That was Stephen. Okay, that was Stephen. That was Lance's friend, Stephen, that worked for he was like a guy from England who was a friend of Lance's who came over for the summer, so worked at the video store for the summer to pay for his thing. All right. And then he would just go and just have pictures of beer. He's Mr. Pub Guy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So he goes, and he's the guy who knows everybody at all the bars that were in like a 2-block radius.
There was no algorithm at the time, so we kind of had to know our customers. We had to know what they wanted and what they were looking for. And if you were say, a bartender coming in.
We haven't introduced Jacqueline yet.
We'd have to know that. Well, that's not me. You should have done it by now. Didn't you?
You're going on a diatribe, and I'm trying to be polite.
And I don't care. I'm just going to jump in and be like, they'll figure out who the voice is.
Quickly do introductions so I can commence my diatribe.
Yes. Our guest tonight is Jacqueline Coley, who is the awards editor at Rotten Tomatoes.
Thank you.
Say hello to the nice people, Jacqueline.
I'm so excited to be here. Very honored, too, to be a guest or customer.
Yes,
in Video
customer.
Archive.
Yes,
yeah.
the customer.
Quentin, he's not only an appreciator of film, but he's an appreciator of film criticism, which not every director, I think, enjoys and loves it to the degree that he does.
Understandably.
Understandably, yes, very justifiably.
Justified.
Never mind the conflict of interest.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean,
I'm not reviewing my movie.
Yeah, he's not reviewing his. He's reviewing old classics.
You know, even before the New Beverly website, there were different pieces that I wrote for Film Comment, and I was paid for. And
you've been writing reviews for as long as I've known you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so have you, actually. I can quote your reviews from the 80s.
Oh my God.
Like Baby Boom.
Baby Boom, that's the one. That's the one. Baby Boom.
I want to hear
this. The
this.
film looks as if the film print was soaked in piss.
Processed in piss.
I feel a butt coming on here, maybe, though, right?
Oh, no, there's no butt.
No.
There's no butt. You hated it.
No.
You hated every minute of it.
I'm not a big Baby Boom fan.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, I so want to hear.
And indeed, the print I saw had to have been like processed in. It was like something was wrong.
On His Majesty's Secret Service, the worst sound editing in the history of motion pictures.
Hey, if nothing else, as an enjoyer of Lifetime movies and cheesy romance novels, you have to give it up for that movie spawning an entire, probably billions worth of dollars of the city woman coming to the country town. And like there's 6 Netflix shows right now with that exact same concept.
I do give up. I throw my arms in the air and I give up.
Yeah.
He doesn't stand by any of those reviews anymore.
That's true. Part of my thing. In fact, I was kind of delighted. Your whole thing seems to be about like, you know, Rotten Tomatoes is wrong. Fuck your thoughts or whatever you're like,
critical consensus can be a joke.
And there's something to be said for that, because for me, I go to see a movie and the screening itself can have an effect on it. Where I am in my life can have an effect on it. I can see it 6 months later and have a completely different experience to it. And what's been super delightful to me as a film viewer as I grow older is that I'm realizing that, hey, Roger Avery in his 50s is a different Roger Avery than I was when I was in my 20s. I have a different perspective. I have different appreciations. Was I an angry young man? Is that what it was?
A little bit.
I was just like
a snotty young man. Hey, Roger, did you see The Kiss? You know, I saw that. That was a pretty good horror film. That is preposterous.
How dare you say such things?
Hey, did you like Explorers? I hated it.
Well, hey, listen.
I did hate Explorers.
But can I just say this, Roger? I think one of the reasons why you have softened in your film opinions and how much it grates on you when people have whatevers is partially because of, I think, the lady that's sitting right next to us right here. And I find that everybody does, because if you don't mature past that, because I was just as like that. Like, I would rage in internet forums. Like, I'm just glad that there was less, I would say, internet was more disposable back then.
Yeah.
Because when I think about now, looking back on my opinions back then, I'm like, who let me have the platform?
The fact that the message boards are long gone.
Yes.
I had no message boards. I only had Quentin.
Yeah. Well, that's so much better. I mean, he probably remembers.
Braddock missing in action 3. Give me a fucking break.
How dare you bring me to this film?
Oh, you're
it can't hold a
friend?
flickering birthday candle to Missing in Action to the beginning.
And you know what? You're absolutely right about Gala changing my, like, for example, we went and saw this movie Konosuba. Okay, it's like anime, right? It's like an anime film.
Yeah, it's an isekai.
An isekai thing based on a series, a very popular series. I had no exposure to it. I go to see it. It was a Fathom Events. Was that what it was? Yeah. So it's like a kind of live projected thing, which meant it was only going to be that one screening.
It was a two night.
It was like showing up for Rocky Horror or something. The fans of that show turned up. I hadn't had a movie experience with an audience in so long that was there to be there for the movie. And certainly Roger of ye olden times would probably not have been open to it. But I went and saw this movie and I was like, that is why cinema was invented, was that film. And the reaction, it was an incredible experience and an incredible movie that I don't know that I would appreciate if I wasn't a father.
As entertaining as that episode of Psychology Today starring Roger Avery was, all this leads into the appreciation and lack of appreciation thereof when it was released. Our first movie that we're talking about, which is Billy Wilder's The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes.
From 1970.
Yes.
Which, by the way, is in a beautiful key video box. Love the key video boxes. So does Gala.
They have that rainbow.
Yeah, they have that rainbow cover.
Beautiful rainbow cover.
Well, they used this actually to a very good effect. That Grady Hendrix wrote a really interesting book the last couple of years called My Best Friend's Exorcism. And the cover of the book is done like a key video.
Wow.
And so you find it looks really cool. It looks like an old video box. It's a good book. Anyway, even though Key Video was normally a 20th Century Fox division, this is a UA movie. So now I will read the back of the box. This is how we tell the story of the movie. It's just we just read the back of the box.
dig. I dig.
I'm explaining that to Jack. Billy Wilder brings his comic magic to the story of the most famous detective in history. That pipe smoking... That pipe smoking. That's really funny. Especially with the subtext in this movie.
Smoking, violin playing, mystery solving.
Okay, let me go back. Okay. Billy Wilder brings his comic magic to the story of the most famous detective in history. That pipe smoking, cape draped enigma, Sherlock Holmes, in a humorous glimpse into his private life that will keep you guessing while it makes you laugh. After daring, delicately, to ask the question, were Holmes and Dr. Watson lovers? The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes plunges into a wild, wacky story that involves a Russian ballerina, the Loch Ness Monster, a haunted castle, a beautiful Belgian spy, Queen Victoria, and a top-secret naval experiment. It all comes out elementary, quote unquote, in this delightful madcap romp through 19th century England. Enjoy top-notch entertainment in a movie that is guaranteed with one laugh-packed scene after another. 1970, color, 125 minutes, recorded in VHS Hi-Fi.
Giddy up.
Well, the reason I wanted to actually pick a film like The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes to be on this episode was it was a twofold reason. One is because I knew Jackie was going to be one of the guests, and her favorite director after me is Billy Wilder.
Yay! Okay, so you have a favorite before you continue, do you have a favorite Billy Wilder film?
The Apartment, and that's where I was.
I could have answered that.
Yes, he definitely could have. I just got the Italian print of it, like a huge Italian print of it that they're putting up in our house, and it shows Shirley MacLaine in that great sort of like slip dress that she wears through it, and yeah, I love it. I love that film. Jack Lemmon doing spaghetti with a tennis racket is probably one of the best sight gags that it'll make me laugh every time.
Number two, then.
Number two for Billy Wilder. Oh, see, this is what's weird. It depends on what I'm in a mood. When I'm feeling schmaltzy.
Do you consider his scripts to be part of the Billy Wilder universe, or does it have to be written and directed by Billy Wilder?
I would say written and directed by him. I would say The Lost Weekend. But sometimes it's Sabrina. Some days I'm feeling, you know what I mean?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So it could hop around.
It can hop around.
You could be in a witness for the prosecution mood.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Or, it really just depends on what you're feeling, because that was what I love about him as a director. Mm-hmm. He, more than any director I had seen up to that point, did not seem to be bound by genre as much as story. Mm-hmm. He just seemed like he fell in love with these various characters, or saw himself or put himself in them. Mm-hmm. And whether it was a noir, whether it was a comedy, whether it was a rom-com, it didn't matter to him. And so that's what I really kind of loved about him.
Do you think that there's a significant shift between the bracket years and then those years without like a single writer, and then suddenly that stretch with IA Diamond, like
yeah, I think it was 5 years before this, between his last film, and I do think it was probably him realizing that the stories that he wanted to tell were not going to be available for him within the studio system, because that was the beginning of the shift that Quentin talks about between old Hollywood and new Hollywood. And I think for him at that time, just looking, he was already kind of, I wouldn't say slow, but he was not as prolific as you could have been at that time for like churning out picture and churning out picture. And so I do think
Okay, well, you have to remember though, he's a writer. He's writing his own things.
Yeah.
You cannot just move from script to script to script because you always have to start with page 1, which is a blank fucking page.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I
could have done more things if I didn't have to always start from the fucking beginning of the earth, all right, every single solitary time.
Absolutely.
But that's the only thing that makes it worthwhile as far as I'm concerned.
And then look what he comes back with, something where he's doing an adaptation. So he wasn't even starting from a blank page with that one. I do think it was the writing at that point. He wanted to write and direct his own stories, and the stories that he was interested in that time were not stuff that they wanted to get produced.
Is it stories or is it characters?
Even better said, characters. Yeah.
Well, but look, it's undeniable that his screenplays with bracket are the better screenplays. But the Billy Wilder as a writer-director that everyone associates with Billy Wilder, it's the I.A. Diamond movies.
Absolutely.
Those are the 60s movies. Those are the late 50s, 60s movies that create the Billy Wilder that we know today.
Yes. The one thing I will say about Billy Wilder, too, and I'm glad that you picked this one on there, is because we all know how Quentin feels about, hey, look, at a certain point, all these directors fall off. But I do.
I usually use him as an example.
Use him as
the front page and Buddy Buddy, and I have a right to.
You have a right to. However, there's still good late innings, and I love this late inning because I don't.
I've always appreciated Avanti.
Yes, exactly.
That's a legit new Hollywood movie.
At the time, though, how was that received within the people that were genuine to it? Did it feel like he was a poser? Because that's one thing I would wonder. Because I didn't watching it. Obviously, you know that somebody writing outside of their wheelhouse, but I never felt like it was corny or
no, I don't think it's corny at all. No, I don't even think it's writing outside of his wheelhouse. I actually feel he took advantage of a time to actually make a slightly sexier comedy than he would have been allowed to have made 4 years or 5 years earlier. I could see him making the exact same movie in 68 or 69, especially with a lemon. But the idea, though, that it was allowed to have a naked scene.
Yeah.
It was allowed to have a sex scene. It was allowed to be genuinely a soft pedal version of risque, but risque nevertheless.
Yeah. I mean, but I just love how many scenes did he master of not showing stuff? So it's almost like one of the guy's greatest tricks is the things that he was able to delicately navigate within the code. So it's interesting.
I wanted to do Private Life of Sherlock Holmes on this episode. One, because I wanted to talk with Jacqueline about it, because this is one of my favorite Billy Wilder movies, and I thought it would be an interesting discussion with Jacqueline. But the other thing about it, though, was I watched this film during a year and a half where I tried to watch as many movies from 1970 that were commercially released in America as I possibly could. The year 1970. I have a whole hypothesis about how, as far as the old Hollywood versus new Hollywood, if you take Mark Harris's word, okay, it more or less started in 67. And then this fight for dominance, this cinematic revolutionary war was fought during 68 and 69, and it was won in 1970. So all of a sudden, new Hollywood became the Hollywood. And Private Life of Sherlock Holmes falls into two categories if you're breaking down the categories of movies released by Hollywood in 1970. One, it falls into a series of movies that were all made from an old Hollywood mindset. And now released in this new Hollywood world, and they're pretty much dead on arrival. So other movies like that would be Blake Edwards' Darling Lily, which is surprisingly similar to this movie. Yeah. George Stevens' Only Game in Town, William Wyler's The Liberation of L.B. Jones, Song of Norway, Jerry Lewis's Which Way to the Front. Yeah. If I wasn't doing that 1970 thing, I never would have watched this movie because I'm not a really big Sherlock Holmes fan. Just the idea of a big budget Sherlock Holmes movie doesn't really draw me. Nothing about the cast drew me at all.
Yeah, and if you hadn't have chosen this film for this, I don't know that I would have ever just on my own.
And the only reason why I did is because I wanted to complete.
Yeah,
Wilder.
You just had to
I just wanted to watch everything that Wilder had ever done, and that is literally when I found out that he even did that.
But because I was being a purist, I sat down and watched it. And it blew me away. I think one of the reasons that I ended up loving it so much because it was such a surprise. It was such a surprise from what I was expecting to get. I saw probably like 125 movies, if not more. And so then making my top 30 or 40 was actually really interesting. Oddly enough, actually the most interesting movies were in the the 30 category. Because they don't work all the way through, but they were interesting. Private Life of Sherlock Holmes made my top 10. But then when we were doing the show, I started remembering the film, and I remembered I didn't remember it. I liked it. I really liked the experience of it. I remembered elements in it. You know, I remember the Loch Ness Monsters in it. I remember the little guys. I remember the little submarine. But I forgot all the intricacies of the story. I definitely forgot the powerful ending. Yeah. I had forgotten it all. And I was like, was I just nuts? Was it that good? I wanted to have an excuse to watch it again. And I wanted to watch it with some other people so we could talk about it. So in that vein, Roger, you were brand new to it. What did you think of the film?
Yeah. Okay. So I've never, ever been a Sherlock Holmes fan.
Aficionado.
An aficionado. I'm not an avid reader of Conan Doyle. And so you picked this movie, but it was Billy Wilder. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, Billy Wilder, let's bring it.
We never talked about it. Are you a Billy Wilder fan?
I call myself a Sunset Boulevard fan.
Okay, got it.
And to me, it's listen, I love a lot of his movies, but in particular, I cherish that film. So the movie begins, mm-hmm. and I think from the very first shot when it's out of focus,
mm-hmm.
Of
the gold nameplate and that London flat.
It was the title treatment itself. Just the entry into the movie, and as that shot racked focus and we realized that we were looking into the brass plate, the building there, and we see
you see all of London reflected.
Reflected. And then
double-decker buses
and then we begin
by.
hearing Watson narrating the film, and I don't know, I can't explain it other than I immediately felt at home and comfortable, like this is exactly my style. And Quentin, you knew this instinctively. Yeah. You even said it as the film started, like, oh, you
Roger very much loves the idea of reinvention of iconic characters. And I could just, as we were watching, it's like, oh, if Roger was hired to do a Sherlock Holmes story, this would be how he would get into
I love this.
And the whole thing about this is that it is done so lovingly, and it's first done as writers.
It's a fantastic
to be able to take the universe of Conan Doyle. Okay, you've got to know that universe, first of all, and you have to know it and love it and truly be able to immerse yourself into it in order to adapt it. And then to realize it in such a vivid, classic, beautiful presentation in a way that only a classic filmmaker can do.
It probably is as great an example of classic direction as you're ever going to find with the camera. Every shot is interesting, but an entire world is encompassed in every single shot.
Everything, every single shot and moment in this movie is done to service Conan Doyle and the world of Conan Doyle. And it's incredible to watch a director selflessly approach the material like that.
But if a sight gag can be fitted comfortably inside that shot and not a lurching for a sight gag, an elegant sight gag can be inserted in the shot, it is.
I freaking loved this movie, and I even told you at the end I cried.
Yeah.
You know, I actually, I'm a little bit of a softie. I have to let you know. I mean, now you know, having watched a movie with me.
Yeah. So how does it sit with you, though? I'm real curious, though.
I actually I got back at midnight or whatever, and at the middle, at 3 a.m., I got up and I was angry. I was actually upset, and I was upset at the reception of the film. The basic idea of the movie was basically dismissed as
just like yesterday's news.
It was out of vogue at the time. Yeah. He wasn't doing the style that was hot in the moment.
Yeah.
And then on top of it all, it's not a very good mystery was sort of the thing.
Hey, it is actually legit for you to be a current critic, and when a movie is absolutely dated on arrival, saying that. Well, it doesn't make, it can still be good. No, but it's a movie from 6 years ago, all right?
Yeah. That
when there's
legit.
A cultural shift that has happened that is dramatic. That is actually a legit thing for a critic to say.
Well, that is a legit thing. And one of the problems is it happened to Robert Stevens. And I'm not sure that the failure of this movie didn't damage him forever. This guy who should have been the next Laurence Olivier.
Well, apparently what I've found out.
And by Robert Stevens, Sir Robert Stevens, I mean the gentleman actor who plays
Sherlock Holmes. It's one of the best performances of Sherlock Holmes you're ever going to.
The best performance. And in fact, I would say that everyone else is standing on the shoulders of, he's also standing on the shoulders of the various portrayals because he's doing revisionism with it. But everything since the show Sherlock, for example. And I think they would even openly admit, yes, of course.
I might push back against that just a teeny tiny bit.
I'm sure that if you talk to that guy, he would probably say, I beloved this movie.
Not about that, all right? No, but about this being the definitive portrayal, all right? But one of the things that happened when I did a little bit of half-assed research was there's two different accounts of what happened during the course of the making of the movie. At some point, the official talk is that they had to shut down for 2 weeks because he just was overloaded with the character and he was suffering from exhaustion. And so they had to shut down 2 weeks. Okay, that's the official report. The unofficial report is he couldn't handle it and he tried to commit suicide during the making of the movie.
Wow.
And they shut down for 2 weeks and then he finished it. There is an undeniable aspect that he was married to Maggie Smith at the time.
Who left him 3 years later.
Yeah. So the only other movie he did after that for a long period of time was the George Cukor movie she did, Travels with My Aunt. After this starring part in this epic, he basically just appeared on a whole lot of British television until he started making cameo appearances and like The Duelist and stuff like that at the end of the 70s. So this scuttled his entire movie career. And he plays it dark. He plays it.
Yes, absolutely.
As funny as he is, he plays the tragedy of Holmes.
Oh yeah, no, he's and look, I don't know what kind of actor he is. All I know is that he's a Royal Shakespeare Company guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that he enters into this movie. He is, I think, incredible in the film and brings a great level of compassion to the character.
I wanted to add this too, and I'm glad you brought it up about Sherlock the television show, because that's actually what struck me as someone that had watched the television show a lot, actually, is how much Stephen Moffat probably owes royalties to this entire version. The darkness, the drug, just the way they cast Irene Adler in the new Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch is almost exactly the way they cast this tragic heroine in this. The other thing that struck me with this one is how fast and how funny it was.
Yeah.
Just like how much it did completely move the story and did progress. And the fact that I didn't feel anything was missing from this, and the fact that we know that there was a lot missing from this.
It moved like Ken Russell from the 70s was pushing it.
Yes. And the fact that there's another version of this with, 15 minutes?
No, it's like
Quentin explained that there was the roadshow thing.
This was designed to be a roadshow film that would have been about 2 hours and 45 minutes.
There you go. And
the idea of it was meant to be 4 separate, self-contained stories that ended up telling one tale, similar to the way the Pulp Fiction was 3 separate stories that ended up telling one tale. There's the wild non sequitur comedy section with the ballerina. Mm-hmm. Then there's the story with the submarine. But then there was 2 other stories that they took out completely.
You said maybe the card with the diamonds at the beginning.
When you see the card of the diamonds at the beginning, when they're opening up Watson's old case.
Yeah.
Of all of his artifacts, that card plays into one of the 2 stories. I mean, literally, it was meant to be each new story was the case of the curious bride,
Yeah.
And then they were all worked their way, but with obviously the one with the German spy is like the main story that carries you through the whole film. The other 2 sound literally like they were supposed to be like the ballerina one, which is completely unto itself.
Yeah. Yes. And I actually have a theory also, because when we were watching this the other night, we were thinking how complete the film feels and thinking, well, what's missing? And there's nothing really that you would want to add to this. Yeah. It's already a very complete.
It seems completely complete. Yeah.
Complete meal. I did think about something that would have been interesting, considering where the 2 leads end at the end of this are Watson and Holmes, is there's elements to the Watson and Holmes relationships that are really tender. The ballerina one casts them in this whole we're not homosexual situation. Mm-hmm. But I do think before we went into the spy, it would have probably been nice to see the other side of their dynamic, how much Watson saves Holmes and vice versa. And I bet you that's what that story probably showed.
Well, I think one of the things, I think the biggest loss from the other 2 stories, is, aside from Wilder's original vision, is in the first half of the movie, it's the only Sherlock Holmes movie where Watson is absolutely a co-lead. He's not supporting. He's an absolute co-lead. But because of the overpreponderance...
It could even be argued he is the lead.
Yeah, well, he's telling the story, yeah. But he's not just a sidekick in the first half. And I remember making that case while we were watching the movie. And then in the second half, that's right when he starts retreating because he's not integral, all right, to the mechanics of the mystery that the last part of the movie takes place in. Where I've heard that especially the other two stories are more comedic and they are about Watson.
Yeah.
He's a co-lead. He's not a sidekick.
Now, this was the roadshow version. So then the studio...
So basically what happened was, well, the studio knew what time it was. It's
1970.
It's United Artists. It's 1970. Everything is new Hollywood shit. This is obviously from an old time. Who the fuck are any of these people starring in it? Yeah. And they've just had one flop after another with a bunch of movies made with this older mindset.
And some young Turk at the studio's like, Billy who?
Yeah. I don't think it was Billy Who, but I think it was just, it was what it was. It's a movie made from a mindset from 1966.
Yeah.
So they go, okay, look, let's just cut it down, make it a regular movie. We're not going to do the fucking roadshow thing, advance tickets. We're not going to own Radio City Music Hall. Just make it a regular movie. And so they did. But the worst part about it is they destroyed a lot of the footage that happened. Now, as it turns out, though, you can see in the new Blu-ray that came out, they've got a section where they tried to reassemble the missing pieces. So what happens is one of the stories, they don't have the picture, but they have the audio. And so they have the script and they describe maybe some photos and stills. So you can get the whole story. You can get the whole audio of the story with visual aids to help you.
I'll be interested to see that.
And then the other one, it has all the picture, but none of the sound. So it's all done with subtitles.
If only the two could come together.
Yeah, I know. But apparently, though, you get a sense of it. You get the charmingness and the comedy of the different stories, and you definitely get to see how it would have played out.
But the thing is, what's weird is like a wine reduction. Cutting it has not taken away any of the goodness that is in this movie, or any of the performance, or any of the themes.
His editor cut it, and apparently it's like, it was easy to cut down. Yeah. Because the other two stories were non sequiturs. The way that the ballerina story is a non sequitur to the submarine story.
And when so much attention gets
the
given,
Loch Ness Monster story.
When so much attention is given to what's lost, less attention is given to what is still there, which is so much more incredible.
There is nothing about this movie that suggests surgery in any way. It's crazy how well the script holds together. I think it may be one of Billy Wilder's best screenplays, if not maybe as far as physical writing, his best screenplay.
And didn't you say he disowned it? To an extent?
No, he thinks the script is the best script him and Diamond ever wrote, but he disowned the finished product
because it wasn't the whole thing.
That was a short-sighted mistake on his part. Just speaking as a viewer, because the movie is super special and has since become imitated for the obvious reasons because of how good it is.
Okay, but that would be like the studio taking Pulp Fiction away from me and then cutting it in chronological order.
Quentin, we sat down and there was actually parts of Pulp Fiction when in our initial and Reservoir Dogs that was in your cut, could not go, and then after discussion, it's like, no, actually, it's better with less.
I understand that.
And you were convinced at certain points, like, this is it.
That's just the process, but I'm saying, look, a studio could have taken the movie away from me at that. Well, they couldn't because I had power at that point. But if it was taken away from me and cut in chronological order, I think the movie would still survive. It would still be funny. It would still be interesting. But I'm going to disown it.
Yeah.
That's a call out to anybody out there who wants to give that a try. Make me a 90-minute version of Pulp Fiction.
Haven't they already done
that? No, a lot of people have cut it. It's so easy to do. All right, you can do it with 2 video recorders. You don't need.
Who's the actress who plays the femme fatale in this one? I forget, but she reminds me of the same thing I say about Anya Taylor-Joy. She gives great face. She just has great face. Like, she doesn't need to be doing anything. Her face is dynamic and interesting enough that you want to watch her. I liked that aspect of her performance, even when she's just laid out, waterlogged. I was invested in only her.
Look, I will now go on what I think is, I'm not going to say a failing of the movie, but I think the movie's Achilles heel, where I think the movie has a weakness. I think there is a weakness in the 3 leads of the cast. As good as they are, I think there's a weakness. And I'm talking about Robert Stevens as Holmes, Colin Blakely less, but I'll still include him, and definitely the girl playing the French or the Belgian girl. They're the three leads of the film. You think it's your favorite portrayal of Sherlock Holmes in cinema? Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm actually not going to disagree with that. All right, I can't disagree with that.
Like much better than any of the.
No, there's absolutely is this kind of Christoph Waltz aspect to Robert Stevens, where he obviously has a tremendous facility with language.
Completely.
He's made to recite dense text. But at the same time, as fantastic as he is with text, it's not a performance just from the neck up. His entire physicality is important to Holmes.
Yes.
Actually, he's so skinny that he actually almost resembles Ichabod Crane more than he does like the classic image of Holmes. But there is a complete physicality to it. However, I'm just saying as an interesting counterpoint, I think it is an absolutely magnificent portrayal of Holmes. I'm not sure it's a great performance. As an audience member, I'm not quite as entertained as I would have been with a more entertaining actor playing the role. I think there's a low wattage when it comes to the three performers that I have to say, I don't think would be there if Peter O'Toole was playing Holmes. I think there would be an entertainment factor that's not there. I think there needed to be, with all his braininess, there needed to be a touch of a music hall quality to help sell the comedy even just a little bit more and just to entertain me. I'm not damning them to hell. I think they're exquisite. But Christopher Lee as Mycroft is so motherfucking fantastic, is so amazing. And he has the star power that the three other actors combined do not have. And I think that's an undeniable facet. When Christopher Lee comes in, you're not looking at anybody.
Okay, I want to make a case for this, a rebuttal,
sure,
if we could. The meaning of the title, The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes, is these are the secret diaries. And as we are introduced to Sherlock Holmes in the beginning, he is not 6'4" or however, he's a number of inches shorter. Watson has been exaggerating everything along the way. He's not as smart. He's not as this. He's not as that.
Oh, and that's one of my favorite parts about the script is that whole
in many ways
deconstruction.
Correct. And the Watson, who Watson is describing, is Peter O'Toole.
Yeah.
If we had had Peter O'Toole, then we would have had one of Watson's stories. We would not have had the guy who is not living up to being Peter O'Toole in real life. His brother, on the other hand, is the...
I buy your hypotheses 110%. I'm still an audience member sitting in a movie wanting to be entertained.
So
I cried at the end, so I was entertained.
Oh, no, I did too, and I did.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about it ultimately not being effective.
I just have this instinct in me that just wants to defend Sir Robert Stevens. and even hearing that he was troubled during the making of the film to the point of committing suicide makes me think he was probably injecting cocaine during the making of it. Makes me think that he immersed himself into character and perhaps even got lost in character. I want to make excuses for the guy. So I'm just going to say I believe that this guy gave himself and serviced himself to the performance. And I think even Billy Wilder looked beyond what is the difference between this movie, Private Life of Sherlock Holmes, and, I don't know, Hound of the Baskervilles. Okay, well, that's where we would have cast Peter O'Toole.
Yeah.
And I don't know who you would have cast. Who would have you cast as Watson against Peter O'Toole? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, I don't know. Frankly, I can't imagine anybody but Colin Blakely now. All right. I mean, I thought he was just so entertaining. To me, he had the star charisma that the other two didn't have. If I had to say who would I rather have seen play Sherlock Holmes, it probably would have been Rex Harrison.
Yeah.
Because I think Rex Harrison has the exact same facility with language and dialogue that Robert Stevens has, but he has that extra little bit of sleazy movie star charm. There is an austere aspect to the movie. If it errs on the too austere way. Now, I actually appreciate that, and I applaud that.
That's why that Russian ballet sequence is so much fun.
That's why it's so fucking fun.
That's when you get. That's when you get that taste of Ken Russell.
It's a big '60s comedy bit. All right.
Yeah.
I will say too, on the end of that one though, is for folks that haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it, but the opening sequence paired with the end of this movie is really when I was like, yeah, that's Billy Wilder that can like thread this needle that he places through there, that is like literally at the heart of the sadness in the movie, and that he used it with just this really careful bit of production design and prop work.
And the set, I mean, the sets might have been, we just did a whole thing on Moonrakers and was basically auteur with Ken Adams.
Yeah.
These almost look like Ken Adams sets. They almost look like parody of Bond sets done in the 19th century.
The sets were simply extraordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were just beautiful. And also the travelogue quality of the movie, that you get to go to the Highlands, that you get to see Victorian England. These are all things that Conan Doyle fans love. They love, to immersion into the world, less so than the particulars of the mystery plot.
Well, one of the things that's so impressive about it, and I can see why him and I.A. Diamond maybe like the script the most that they've written, is because it's definitely coming from a literary place where that's not necessarily where they were coming from in the other things. And Billy Wilder's writing in a different temperature than he normally writes. He's writing a fast-talking, literate British comedy.
Yes.
And so he's never written where every character is British and everyone has a British accent and everyone's making British little quips all the time. Holmes's 3 pages of dialogue almost every time he talks is perfectly written. Then not only that, he has to actually invent a legitimate Conan Doyle type mystery in order for it to work. Yeah. And it does. All these random elements, they all become clues, and it's going to work into a larger mosaic. And then it does. And when it does, it usually surprises you with its cleverness. Yeah.
And I will say again, there is several elements to this big story that were divided up into little smaller stories within the Sherlock. Like literally it's so many of them, from the idyllic to the town that's on the conspiracy because it's just better for them to have a mystery monster. It's all there.
And then, but then, like you said, though, it builds to a devastating climax. I mean, and because I don't think you expect the movie to be quite as funny as it is. All right. You wouldn't by looking at the poster. You wouldn't by looking at the video box. And then the fact that it actually ends up being as funny as it is, and then ends with such a gut punch ending. I mean, one of the most exquisite, dramatic,
tender gut punch.
Yeah, a tender gut punch. Maybe the most masterful tone change that Wilder's ever pulled off at the for a film
I'm actually
climax.
I'm choking up right now just thinking about it. Actually, it's
absolutely,
it affected me.
And there's tremendous amount of layers of subtext, so it's not exactly what it appears on the surface. All right, it's not necessarily that he was in love per se, even though that is the implication if you just follow the text. But that's not necessarily what has been presented to us, and we do not necessarily take it that way.
No, it is in some ways the fact that he's even moved by it is more of the thing I think to mark.
Yes.
Like the fact that this even affects him in the smallest way, and it's more about what that means for the two men and how they deal with their friendship.
Quentin and I, before you arrived, we just popped on the beginning. I asked him to pop on the beginning just so I could watch just the beginning again. Just because I wanted to see the cinematography, like that unpacking of the time capsule that Watson has made that's filled with all of the artifacts, and as they unpack it. And it was just like looking at all of the various things, Holmes's ring with the compass inside of it, and the playing card that we mentioned, and his hat and his pipe. But then they opened up his little pocket watch, and you see her picture inside of it. And when you see that, you don't notice at the beginning, but she means enough to Holmes that he's carried in his watch.
Yes.
Her picture. That's really special. Like, I love that.
Well, but also, because the movie's so deep, you actually understand something. I don't think the picture was put there until after her Japanese episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, in fact, I'm positive.
Yes,
that it was the Japanese episode that made him put a picture of her in the watch.
Absolutely.
But wow. How deep is a movie that you can actually make a declarative statement like that, and you go, yes, absolutely.
Exactly. Well, no, I mean, but just look at that opening. That's what I was saying. Like that opening has so many careful points of filmmaking, whether it be the picture, whether it be the prop that we haven't really discussed more, but everything from the colors. I think there's a scarf or something that he actually wears. They all show up within the larger story.
Yeah, you just realize from the very first shot for me, we're in the safest of hands who are going to carry us through this movie.
Exactly.
Have you ever wondered what the lead singer of Smash Mouth, Zach Goody, feels about new versus old guys in music and cinema? Or how photographer Toasty Cakes makes his cinematic discoveries? What about the opinion of Rotten Tomatoes editor Jacqueline Coley and what she considers to be the new Hollywood shift of the streaming era? Join me, reporter on the beat Gala Avery, as I get to the bottom of these very questions. Starting on October 26th, I have a new guest on the mic every week. Yes, every Thursday, hear your favorite filmmakers, photographers, actors, models, and more talk about a topic that is near and dear to their heart that they want you to know about. You'd be surprised at what people are interested in. The Gala show premieres October 26th with new episodes every Thursday, available wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back, and we're joined by Gala Avery.
Hi, Quentin. Hi, Roger. And hi, Jackie. I'm so glad you're joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So my favorite Billy Wilder film, I'm Team Double Indemnity.
Mm-hmm.
That was the movie that actually, when I watched that, I went, wow, I love crime noir.
Mm-hmm.
That was honestly my understanding of what crime noir was. So I'm 100% Team Double Indemnity. Second would be Sunset Boulevard. You know, Quentin, you didn't say what your favorite Billy Wilder film was.
Oh, that's easy. Five Graves to Cairo. Franz Ozon and Erich von Stroheim playing Rommel.
Yeah.
A magnificent Rommel.
Von Stroheim.
Actually, and how I discovered that, I discovered that movie fairly late. I actually didn't watch it until I was writing Inglourious Basterds, and I was trying to watch movies made during the 40s that were directed by directors who had lived in Europe and had to leave Europe because of the Nazis and started making movies in Hollywood. So I watched a whole series of those movies, and then I was trying to watch. There's not that many speculative fiction World War II movies out there made in the 40s and the 50s, but one of them is Five Graves to Cairo. Yeah. And it was so charming and so funny and so clever, and Erich von Stroheim was so terrific that it actually kind of, not that I needed a co-signer for what I wanted to do on Inglourious Basterds, nevertheless, Wilder co-signed my idea of doing World War II speculative fiction with Five Graves to Cairo.
Yeah, he would have loved Inglourious Basterds.
Oh, that's a nice thing to say.
You know, I actually haven't seen that one, Quentin, but I'm going to go home and watch it right now.
Oh, great. It's so clever. It's so much fun.
When it comes to the private life of Sherlock Holmes, this might not have been the movie needed back then in 1970, but I think it's the kind of movie that's needed now.
Mm-hmm.
I think this classic kind of storytelling where, as Roger said, you feel right at home is something that we're missing in today's modern market. I don't know if we have this.
Here.
I think just the look of this movie, the softness, the shots, the color. Like when they're with the ballerina and she has that mirror that's just all 6 mirrors and it's all of her and the camera moves. The camera work is so superb on this film. It gives me goosebumps.
No,
it's actually...
He's never been a camera-first director either, but there is an elegance.
But this guy, Christopher Chalice, who shot this movie...
Who the fuck is that? I've never heard of him.
He was the camera operator for Pressburger Powell. And so he did Night Ambush, Miracle in Soho, all the Rank classics. This guy was one of those workman DPs who ended up doing Two for the Road, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, stuff like that. A real workman, but starts off as an operator for Pressburger Powell, and so on Red Shoes. And so I looked at the colors in this, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's what I'm seeing! I'm seeing the guy who was the student of Jack Cardiff, the DP of the Red Shoes.
Big fan of his as a director as well.
I see that in this film, and just the color is just incredible.
I think
what happened to color in movies is the question. It's
I think there's specifically 2 moments with the color that really stood out to me. I'm not sure about you guys. The first one is the ballerina when she's all in red lounging, and she has all the red roses behind her.
Yeah.
It's color layered upon color layered upon color. And then the moment when Sherlock Holmes and the double agent or secret agent or whatever, they're out on Lake Loch Ness having their picnic, and she's wearing green, and it's on the green, on the green, on the green. It's the color laid upon color, laid upon color, and it is just so beautiful.
It's actually one of the one-sheet shots, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Image.
I'm so glad you mentioned that one too, because I felt for those that are listening that care, and I will represent the people that do in this. The costumes of our female
so
lead
beautiful.
are absolutely incredible, and I'm pretty sure that is probably an 18-inch waist that she is sporting with that. It is serious, but so gorgeous, and again, just statuesque.
I also have to say in the dance hall sequence where there's that amazing number where the ballerinas transform from all the female ballerinas into the male ballerinas. And the female ballerinas are all wearing kind of white and all dancing together with Watson. And it's simply one of the most striking sequences, Ken Russell-like sequences. You know how much I love Ken Russell. And then suddenly they become replaced by these male ballerinas who are all wearing almost like velvet
green tunics,
crushed oranges and crushed greens. You can feel the fabric. You can actually.
They look like the chorus of Les Mis.
Yeah, it's like you're watching, the Technicolor Robin Hood, and with those costumes. And I looked at that and I was like, wow, like in a modern movie, Denis Villeneuve would have come in and let's suck all that color out. let's shoot it on video and run it through the deflavorizing machine. And in this, I'm just feeling every beautiful pop of color, of Eastman color jumping out at me. And it's just like invigorating for my eyes. It was like it washed my eyes.
I agree with you, Gala. I mean, there's a level of expertise and craft when it comes to all the heads of the departments together on this movie that I don't think could be duplicated today, because I think that craftsmanship has fallen to a small handful that can actually still do it. And when I say do it in 60s way, I mean physically fucking do it.
Yeah. This is total British craftsmanship when craftsmanship was king.
Yes.
When the British industries were run by absolute craftsmen.
And I do think there's a lot of benefits for being able to make movies on iPhones and all that kind of stuff. There is definitely benefit, and a whole lot of people
and a place for it.
And a lot of people who didn't have voices can now have a voice to make a movie however they want. But there has been a loss of craftsmanship because of it. And then to look at something like this, I don't know. There's only a few people, Spielberg, a few other people who could be able to duplicate it because they could be able to get the craftsmen in order to duplicate this.
Yeah, it's almost like because watercolors now exist and oils can't be around anymore and people have forgotten how to paint in oils.
That's exactly it. That's exactly what's happened to photography.
And now all of a sudden, there can only be watercolor.
No, that's exactly what's happened to film photography. Is the people producing most of the images aren't sophisticated enough in order to make something that can survive 3 different dupes of a film print. And so what you want is what's playing in the movie theater.
When they go to the Diocles Club, is that the name of it?
Yeah.
When they go to the Diocles Club, which is Mycroft's club, there's this wonderful.
Just even hearing you say the Diocles Club. It just makes me giggle.
There's this deep shot showing the kind of depth of this club from hall to hall to hall to hall, and the various shafts of light and pools of light that are carefully and delicately placed in.
He builds magnificent sets just for Holmes to walk through, and you never see the set again.
Yeah.
And I think actually it goes even further than just the look, like the texture and the look, because that dance scene, I'm so glad you brought it up. That dance scene is amazing. This, like the transition between the women to the men in the line with Watson is phenomenal.
It's a visual gag that requires somebody at the skill level of Billy Wilder or maybe a Spielberg to be able to pull that off.
But I will make my case, what I said earlier, part of the reason it works is there is a music hall outsized comedic quality to Colin Blakely's performance that sells the gag.
Yes,
it's not just Billy Wilder. You need a comic. You need a Joker in that deck to sell that gag.
That's why he ended up finding his way into the Return of the Pink Panther or whatever, whatever Pink Panther it was that he was in.
I agree with you because it's not just one master. Roger said this is a film created by a master. It is masters. Everyone in this movie is a master in their own way. And going back to the dance transition, when they whisper to each other, oh, like Sherlock is gay. It's a gay man.
Yeah.
And you watch them with the cinematic language of the camera, and the camera is telling the story. You never hear what's being whispered, and the camera goes from each person to person, and then it pans up to the man who just smiles.
Yeah.
And you know in that moment what's being told.
There's also a beautiful close-up captured by Christopher Chalice, which is of Holmes. And it's classic cinematography, which was probably not in vogue at this moment, where the front of his face is dark. They've got a glancing light on the back of his face and of Sir Robert Stevens's face. And he has such a British face that the way it's capturing light, but they make sure, which nobody would take the care to do anymore, to make sure that he has little eye lights in there.
Yeah.
That was a big thing back then. You
Yeah.
make sure your star's got an eye light.
No, it's a very
some
big
kind.
thing. Yeah.
So we can see the sparkle in his eyes. And that sparkle, it's the magic of movies. I think the cinematography in this film is some of the best cinematography I've seen in years.
And I have a friend who's a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. He's watched every single Sherlock Holmes movie, every TV show, and he told me this is the best. He told me this one, because you watch them all and he says they start to bleed together and you start not really remembering and stuff. But he said there are two things he will always remember in this one. One is the dance hall scene, which goes, it's not Sherlock, it's Watson. It's Watson, which arguably this is Watson's story.
Yeah.
And then also his drug use. That he's a cocaine addict.
Well, it is Watson's story. He's narrating it, and the title is the title of his, it's basically his book.
Yeah. And I mean, 7% Solution could almost be a sequel to this movie. Because it's coming from the same...
A loving
sequel. Because it's coming from the same whiz kid. We're going to take Arthur Conan Doyle and do our own thing with it. I would put this on par with another movie. My other... and I might put it a little bit above this one. Again, I think for the tawdry enjoyment of it all, would be Murder by Decree. That's my other favorite Holmes movie.
Okay.
With Bob Clark and our friend Geneviève Bujold, who we love. But Christopher Plummer, a fantastic...
Amazing performance.
And
it's a great Canadian film.
And also, it is a great Canadian film. And as Pauline Kael said, the greatest performance of Watson ever in the case of James Mason. I put Murder by Decree right on par with this one.
I know, and you guys laughed at me about this one, but it was an interesting exercise, and it is a film, but they did do one of the Sherlock episodes as a film called The Abominable Bride, where they take the Benedict Cumberbatch character and Martin Freeman, and they put them back in contemporary Arthur Conan Doyle. I really just enjoyed the mishmash of that. I just kind of like that as an interesting sort of exercise. You can't really reinvent this world when you talk about Sherlock. So any ways where you can make it feel completely familiar but different, I enjoy that.
Okay, and I have another review for Private Life of Sherlock Holmes that appeared in the November issue from 1970 of Films in Review, and it was by Arlene Kramborg. One goes away from this unpleasant and unnecessary film wondering why anyone so talented as Billy Wilder collaborated on its script, directed it, and produced it. For its storyline is a humorless and jumbled spoof of 19th century espionage, and some of its sequences have no purpose other than to suggest Holmes was a sex pervert and his use of narcotics a legitimate relief from boredom. The deliberate utilization of a fictional character of worldwide popularity to promote or condone these two vices is reprehensible. In addition to its sociological evil, The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes has cinematic sins. The worst of these is its casting. Robert Stevens makes Holmes seem effeminate, petulant, and devoid of common sense. And Colin Blakely as Dr. Watson is more vulgarly bumbling than Conan Doyle's meant Watson to be. Except for Geneviève Page as a German spy, Sterling Holloway as a gravedigger, and Christopher Lee as Holmes' brother Mycroft, the rest of the cast is always unattractive and frequently inept. The art direction and set direction are artless, as is Christopher Chalice's color photography of them and of the exteriors. The bulk of the action is unbelievable and involves German agents trying to get the plans of a submarine the British are constructing in Scotland. It's so flat-footed, crudely put together, and unfunny, One is amazed that Wilder and his collaborator, I.A.L. Diamond, were its authors. Ditto for the dialogue. Once a Wilder-Diamond forte.
Wow. That is a very hard review.
Like, you think?
But weirdly hard. I mean...
No. She hates it.
There is an axe to grind that's well beyond the movie. I mean...
Well, no.
Artless?
I don't know about that. I mean, you may very well be right. But also, in a film magazine, people just hate certain people.
Yeah.
You just hate this director, or you just hate this movie.
Hate Billy Wilder.
Yes. Or you hate
That's the person I'm going to choose to hate.
Or you hate his new movie, or you hate the way his last 3 movies have been.
Yeah. And it is through the lens of when that movie was released, which was...
Yeah, 1970.
He was considered an anachronism through the film.
Exactly. Okay, not in Films in Review. Okay, they are so old-fashioned, all right, in Films in Review.
They are the old guard.
They are the old guard. Yeah, they're still Topaz is still on their cover. So the last review I'm going to read of Private Life of Sherlock Holmes comes from a book called The Golden Screen, 50 Years of Film by Dilys Powell. Now, who Dilys Powell is... She probably wouldn't like being referred to it this way, but she's sort of the Pauline Kael of Britain. Mm-hmm. She reviewed in December 1970 Private Life of Sherlock Holmes. She had a very interesting take on it all. Conan Doyle's qualities as a writer have not, I think, been generally recognized. His invention, his creation of a world inhabited by consistent and indestructible characters, yes. But I'm thinking of him as a stylist, of that unfussy, direct narrative manner precisely fitted to his material. It is so apt that scarcely anybody notices it. Billy Wilder, who has directed The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes, is another direct writer. He may work in a medium needing the intervention of players and technicians, but is still ultimately dependent on the writer. And by writer, I mean not only the scenarist, but the director, who after all writes his films in his use of performance and movement and the relation of images. Even when you don't like a Billy Wilder piece, you can see that it is efficiently written in those terms. Mr. Wilder is a scriptwriter, his own scriptwriter. For the current film, his partner, and for some time past, is I.A.L. Diamond. And the result is a comedy, well, nearly a comedy, which one recognizes as a carefully composed, sophisticated essay in the genre. One can say, as one can nowadays so rarely say of a book, that it is decently written. One can relax and enjoy it. Alexander Tanner's contribution as production designer, the persuasive set decorations of Harry Cordwell, a coherent plot and witty dialogue. I have been trying to make out why, with all of these things that I appreciate and enjoyed, I still don't rave about the film. 1 or 2 sequences don't quite work. For instance, though the idea is good, the visit by Queen Victoria, the vengeance of the silent spy strikes me as a shade cold-blooded for Holmes. But these aren't enough to smother enthusiasm. And anyhow, it is not divergence from the spirit of Conan Doyle that I find disturbing. On the contrary, I believe it is the fidelity of the new adventures. They are almost too close to their models, with the result that when now and then they break away, one finds oneself irrationally upset. Anyway, it is absurd to grumble when the whole experience has been so absorbing, so civilized, and, to use a word not often found in praise of the cinema, so literate. Let's just sit back and appreciate it.
That's really true. I mean, the literacy of the movie, you do feel that. And her complaint, weirdly enough, almost sounds like the literacy of the film.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The movie's ability to be Conan Doyle-like.
And for anyone who wants to watch The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes, this movie's available all over, so you're in luck. But I would say try to get the Blu-ray so that you can see the deleted scenes. Or
I'm
not
going to get it.
Scenes,
I'm buying it.
Yeah, I'm buying it as well.
We're all buying it at this table, and you should too. I got my VHS on eBay for $19.99. I was so jealous of Quentin's Key video with that beautiful rainbow box. Anyone who hasn't seen a Key video, oh my gosh, you're going to want one.
Check out our website to see that one.
Yeah, check it out. The Video Archives one was purchased back in the day for $69.
And the number of the tape was 2522.
Wow, that's right. 2522.
Jules Verne took you from the center of the earth to the craters of the moon, and now to the light at the edge of the world. From National General Pictures comes Jules Verne's The Light at the Edge of the World, starring Kirk Douglas, Yul Brynner, and Samantha Agar. Here is Jules Verne's most exciting and fascinating adventure, in which one man alone must challenge a force of evil dedicated to the destruction of the light at the edge of the world. Kirk Douglas, Yul Brynner, Samantha Agar, and you are taken over the edge of the world. Jules Verne's The Light at the Edge of the World, unlike anything you have ever seen. In color, rated GT, all ages, parental guidance.
And now we move on to our next film, which is Jules Verne's Light at the Edge of the World. It was put out by a horrible video company called Ace Video. We'll get into that later. But Roger, please do the honors.
The Light at the Edge of the World, it stars Kirk Douglas and Yul Brynner, and also the lovely Samantha Eggar. And
we're all big Samantha Eggar fans here. She watched our Demonoid episode.
And of course, Fernando Rey, the great Fernando Rey. Yes. Jules Verne has taken you to the bottom of the sea, center of the earth, craters of the moon. Now he takes you over the edge. That's on the front of the box. So on the back, lighthouse keeper Douglas fights fiercely for possession of an island against a bloodthirsty sea pirate, Brynner. And there's an explanation point after Brynner. Shipwreck victim, Eggar, also becomes a bone of bitter contention as the two adversaries battle for her affections. This Jules Verne classic is filled with thrilling action-adventure, excitement for all ages, color, 119 minutes, and rated PG.
This is rated PG.
Well, this version,
what?
Well, no, it wasn't rated R. It wasn't rated R when it came out.
Yeah.
When I saw it when it came out. But that is we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into the PG of it all.
Yeah. That doesn't really describe the storyline that well. It does, but not well. The idea of the film is that Kirk Douglas is he's working on this island on a lighthouse, which basically means he's been living the last year or however long he's been there on this fucking island when there's only him and the other lighthouse people on it. And he's obviously there in a French Foreign Legion kind of way. He's loved and lost and can never get over it. So to help drown his sorrows, he's moved to this island and just working in this lighthouse. The captain of the lighthouse, played by Fernando Rey, and then this really terrific young guy named Philippe, who was actually, I can't remember the actor's name, but he's also in the Yul Brynner Italian mafia movie Death Rage by Antonio Margheriti, that actually my very favorite Margheriti directed film. And he was also, kind of looks like a young Harvey Keitel, and he actually was a big singing star in Italy at the time. Anyway, so these three people are working at this lighthouse. It takes place in like 1904, 1888 or something like that.
It actually takes place in 1865.
Oh, 1865.
Or maybe 66 or 67. Okay. It takes place shortly after the Civil War.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, cool.
And it was inspired.
The gold rush is still going on at the time.
Yeah. Jules Verne had been to the Paris Universal Exposition and saw the Fresnel lenses there in 1867. And he was so captivated by the Fresnel lenses that he just thought about them his entire life until he wrote the...
And this is his last book. This is the last book he would ever write. So they're on this island with this lighthouse, and they make a big case about they are part of the lifeline to the sea. If you're stuck in a storm and you're stuck in the black, and all of a sudden you see that light, that's home. That's safety. That is that's your bearing.
It's the beacon that guides you to a safe harbor.
I think he actually uses the expression, it's the eye of God.
Yeah.
It's the eye of God. And it is the eye of God. I see that. And then all of a sudden, a ship shows up. And they wonder what's going on with this ship. Maybe there's a medical emergency. Maybe there's something that needs to have happen. And so Fernando Rey, the captain, and Felipe go on the ship to just see, can they help? Can they offer some assistance? Kirk Douglas doesn't go with him, but he just kind of watches it from his rocky perch. And then he watches the captain and Felipe being slaughtered. And I mean, completely gutted. And he realizes, holy shit, these guys are pirates. This is fucked up. And now they've come to the island to take over the island. And they are led by their pirate king, which is played by Yul Brynner, who is magnificent in the film.
Regal.
Yes.
And I saw this I either saw this in 71 or 72. I can't remember because it came out in 71. National General Pictures, which I'm always a big fan of that company, came out with it. But when I saw it, it was definitely the second half of the double feature. Not only do I remember the movie from watching it as a little kid, I mean, I remember being with my stepdad. I remember being with Kurt at the movie theater. I remember us looking at the poster. I remember the moments during the movie. I remember talking about the movie on the ride home. And this was the first movie I ever saw Yul Brynner in. Mm. And I was like, who's this fucking bald guy? I was, as a little boy, I was as much rooting for Yul Brynner as I was for Kirk Douglas because I just thought he was so badass. But I was constantly rooting for bad guys in movies because I liked the actor. Mm. And the next thing I saw, which was within the next year, I saw one of the re-releases at the theaters of The Ten Commandments. And then I saw Yul Brynner in that. And I go, oh man, this guy's a motherfucker. I was all about Yul Brynner for a little while. He was one of my favorite actors. But this was the first movie I saw him in. So anyway, they take over the island and they've got a plan, and they've got a sound plan that's very interesting. They know that they can control this island. They can not turn on the lighthouse, but they can build a fire or create a light on a rocky mountain. And so then ships will go to that light and they'll crash on the rocks. And then their idea is to kill everybody that survives, kill the men, rape the women, slaughter them all, take all their jewelry, and then take all the booty.
Yeah.
From the ship.
They're true pirates.
They're true pirates. And I think absolutely, positively, and this includes Peter Benchley, Michael Ritchie / The Island, the most bloodthirsty pirates in the history of cinema.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Yeah.
Even more than The Island.
Yeah.
They're more authentic in their weird Cockney kind of verbiage, and they look more correct.
Yeah.
All right. But they're not as bloodthirsty as these guys. These characters are straight out of a fucking Sergio Corbucci movie. I mean, They could be the bad guys in fucking Navajo Joe. In fact, the second in command evil guy, the Aldo Sombrell, is the leader of the bad guys. And
he is frightening in this.
Oh, he's fantastic. He doesn't have a fucking line, and he's amazing in the goddamn movie. No, but also, if you are a fan of Italian cinema, if you're a fan of spaghetti westerns, like all the pirates are made up of spaghetti western, a rogues gallery of those kind of spaghetti western actors.
Yeah.
And so Kirk Douglas's situation is, first, he's just trying to survive. He doesn't have any food. He's got to scavenge for food. He's got to survive the elements. But little by little, the movie turns into a predate of Die Hard. Because the fact that he is a capable man on his own with some combat skills, he's able to, and similar to also Navajo Joe, little by little pick off. First it's one, then it's two pirates, gets all the way up to 8 pirates at a certain point. And he does it cleverly. And he manages to thwart Yul Brynner in just the right kind of way that he gets under his skin. I got to get this fucking guy.
And there's enough Die Hard similarities where I had one, like at the end, I was like, did Steven D'Souza see this? Like even the very end with the explosion in the quote unquote building and the bad guy, falling. And, exactly. I was like, oh, well, that's Alan Rickman's death.
Yep.
It's very similar.
But it's also really great the way Kirk Douglas works his way up. So first it's like a rose gallery of some of the ugliest people that you remember, all right, that he's wiping out. But then at a certain point, he starts getting people in Yul Brynner's inner circle. And okay, now that's fucking it. Yeah. That's fucking it. All right. I've got to get Kirk Douglas' character.
It's when he sits down at one point and he's had severe losses, both I would say symbolic losses and actual things that he needs to survive, Yul Brynner's character. And he sits down and he's across from one of the hostage women.
Samantha Eggers.
Yeah, Samantha Eggers. And he pours a drink, and it's that moment where you're like, no, I'm not having a drink. I need a drink.
And not only that, he pours her a drink. I'm having a drink, and I need you to have a drink with me.
Well, I will say that I was going to wait to bring this up. Okay, but since you brought it up now, I'll bring it up now. I know you guys like this movie the least of the three. Having said that, during that scene, that was the scene of the 3 movies that you guys were the most into. All right. There was a certain quiet that happened during that scene that did not exist in any of the 3 other movies of just you could hear a pin drop because they had you.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just had you in their grip.
Yul Brenner had me
Yeah.
in
Very much
his
so.
grip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could not wait to see how that scene was going to play out. I mean, there's a special kind of quiet that falls on an audience in those moments. And that was the only time that yesterday that quiet happened, was during that scene.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I think, if we had to kick one out of the boat, this would be the one. But even saying that, I'd still probably recommend under certain situations to watch this again, especially with a crowd.
Yeah.
This is a very good.
Oh, this is a terrific New Beverly movie.
Communal.
It's a great New Beverly movie.
Exactly.
It kills. It kills at the New Beverly. We've shown it at the New Beverly.
If they have that again, I'd be like, oh no, you absolutely need to see this.
I have a 16 scope print, so we show that from time to time at the New Beverly. Yeah,
I love that. But I think the part of it for me is just more that man on the run, sort of surviving the game type, he's just ducking in and out of there. And there's still humor and funniness to it. There's a lot of, I think, humorous moments within it, including the biggest liability in the history of you've come to have an ally.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember that dude. Giuseppe, I think was his name.
Yeah.
I was like, you are so a red shirt. We know you're going to die. It's just how bad are you going to mess things up before you do?
So the book is pretty different than the movie. Well, first of all, the name of the novel, Le Fer du bout du monde.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so fer is lighthouse, and bout du monde means literally butt of the world.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Uh-huh.
Wow.
And so
The ass end of the world.
now think about that. Lighthouse
Lighthouse at the asshole of the world.
The asshole of the world. Now I'm just going to say it's a
Go
very
with that from here on in. Lighthouse at the asshole of the world.
I mean,
that's my new title for this.
It is not technical. I mean, it's a little much to say the asshole. That would be the cul de monde, which is the ass of the world. This is the butt of the world, the bout du monde. It's almost like the toe, the tip. The edge is a good way to translate it, but it's a very specific word for edge because he's using butt of the world. So it takes place in Tierra del Fuego, which is at the Cape, down there at the tip of South America. And the idea in the book is that the Republic of Argentina has chosen this island to build this lighthouse on. So they go there and they've built the lighthouse. They didn't know that there's a whole bunch of pirates already living on the island that are marooned there.
Oh.
And so they're already there. Eventually, Congre shows up. Yul Brynner's character, he lands on the island. And the thing is, there's a lot that's different about it. I mean, it is a story.
It doesn't have the Die Hard type setup.
No, it has the Die Hard type setup. It is absolutely a story about human survival, but it is not mean-spirited. At least I didn't detect in my quick read of it. Mm-hmm. It's not mean-spirited the way this movie is. This movie is cruel.
Yeah, it is cruel.
It has a cruelty.
I like that.
And I mean cruelty, and I mean cruelty in the French sense of the word, cruauté. Like an Antonin Artaud style cruelty, a theater of cruelty.
Even with Grand Guignol, aspects.
Yeah, the Grand Guignol aspects of it. But that whole thing about Antonin Artaud was that he would use cruelty as a way to wake up the audience, by showing cruel moments.
Like me.
Which is why you love it so much, I think, in many ways.
Yeah.
This movie is shot in Cadaqués, Spain, which is the home of Salvador Dali, who's one of the greatest proponents of cruelty. He would call himself a cruel, that you have to be cruel in order to do surrealism properly. And so there's something about the location in Spain that I think brings about cruelty, that brought an injection of cruelty into this material, which is like a boy's story. It's like a boy's adventure.
And also the murdering
original.
of pets helped.
There was no monkey. There is no horse. In the there is no mention of slavery. There is no slave. There is.
These are all the elements that actually make the movie a mosaic that you remember.
As I was flipping through the book, I was thinking, man, Quentin would hate this because everything in the movie is all the stuff that Quentin loves. However, I found the choices that were made were disturbing to me. In fact, we were actually questioning, all of us, some of the violence that we see perpetrated against animals. Is it real? Because it feels real. Part of that is just that the overwhelming cruel nature of what is being presented to us.
But also our knowledge of how Europe handles animals at that time period.
I had to tell myself as I was driving home, it's a movie, it's Kirk Douglas. There's no way they're going to kill that beautiful creature and display it on film. It can't be real. I've told myself that my entire drive home.
Okay, here's the thing about the moment you're talking about. I would like to think that it's just an absolutely magnificent effect. The reason I think it's real is it's just too good an effect. I just almost find it hard to believe that they faked it.
I'm gonna stick with you on that one, sir. I'm gonna say that it's fake. They just got a good prop.
I have to convince myself of that if I'm like sitting, because
it's
gruesome. It's gruesome, and it's like, and I have you know me. I have very few lines that I cross.
Look, I fall in the exact same boat. Actually, yeah, it's the only super line that I have when it comes to cinema. I don't want to see real death in cinema. The whole point of an art form is that it's illusion, and so I don't want to see a cockroach squashed in a movie because that cockroach doesn't give a fuck about your goddamn movie. So that's the line I don't cross, and I have an issue with a lot of European and Asian cinema for that reason.
I love Jodorowsky. Jodorowsky to me is a surrealist master, but when he kills turtles and iguanas in Holy Mountain, I only beg my master will have a greater epiphany in life.
But they probably didn't kill the monkey because the monkey was probably obviously a trained monkey, and so thus he has an owner who's going to go on.
And it's more valuable a lot.
And that monkey has a connection with Kirk Douglas.
No, the monkey is a fucking actor in the goddamn. He's a character. His name is Mario. No, the monkey is a fucking character. His name is fucking Mario.
I'm going to split the difference and say maybe it was like a squirrel.
Yeah,
like they got something else.
What, a spider squirrel?
I mean, shush. You know what I mean? Like they killed something else and then said it was a monkey.
And this led me to Kevin Billington, the director, and me.
Who does a terrific, he's a wonderful action director with not a lot of action credits on his
like
resume, but he's
a TV guy apparently.
Yeah.
An extremely muscular director with a really good action sense and magnificent pulp framing. All right, on that island, with things in the foreground, things in the background, and always emphasizing the masculinity and the strength of Kirk Douglas and the masculinity and the strength of Yul Brynner and his gargoyles.
Whereas Wilder and Diamond were servicing Conan Doyle without even adapting him directly, I feel like Kevin Billington, in many ways, is not serving Jules Verne. He's serving himself. Yeah. Now, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
As you just described, I think I like the movie more than I like the book.
You will like Quentin Tarantino. You will like the movie better than the book because it has huevos.
It's cynical, it's pessimistic, and I like cynical, pessimistic shit.
Yeah, well, I do too. I do too. I'm really just bringing this up because it's.
You were surprised by the difference.
I was shocked when they did that only because, like you said, you don't ever kill the dog.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm like, okay, it's a monkey. It's our friend, the monkey. The monkey was showing him things. The monkey's showing him the cave. The monkey's like helping him. The monkey's his little buddy. We're children watching the movie.
The monkey's Wilson.
We're children watching the movie. We love the monkey. The monkey is like suddenly in the hands of the pirates. Okay,
I love that. I love that. I like the fact that you're going to cross the line.
Oh, of course you do.
That the bad guys are so fucking evil. Oh my God, they're going to get the child. Oh, they're going to kill the child. Yeah. Oh my God.
Not only that.
Those are just lines that movies don't cross. So I love it when movies cross those lines.
And he made sure to cross every line. Like he made sure to say, oh, you like Samantha Eggar? Guess what? I'm going to gang rape her. I'm going to have all these pirates. I'm going to have 20 pirates gang rape her.
I didn't love her so much.
Before we blow her up and sink her.
That was the worst part about that. It was such a throwaway, like the line that Yul Brynner said, because this was the deal with her character, is she impersonated her mistress, like she was a serving maid or whatever. Yeah. She impersonated her mistress and pretended that she was posh because she figured it would maybe save her. And the Yul Brynner character basically, I think, kept her around as posh entertainment.
Yeah.
And teased her for like,
And then he realized he could play her as a decoy.
Well, and Kevin Billington's point, I think, is to show you don't like entertain a fucking terrorist.
Yeah.
When Yul Brynner is like the killer, then you don't play to the killer.
Yes.
You don't like, play nice with him because eventually that's not going to work. You're gonna get raped by all the pirates and killed.
No, but that's similar to the dilemma that's in the Michael Cimino Desperate Hours.
Yeah.
Where Anthony Hopkins, goes to Mimi Rogers, his wife, and he goes, "You're trusting Mickey Rourke. You need to trust me."
Yeah. No, that was exactly what it is. And that was look, I don't think that anyone can forgive that part of the audience, because when I was watching it, I was like, this is harsh. This girl was just on a ship, but everybody else just got killed off the get. So it's not as if like anybody that was in her situation got out of it clean. But he says to her, he's just like, exactly, seriously. He says to her, you're finally going to become the tragedy that you're destined to be.
Yeah.
Finally, the tragic princess. When he tosses her to the crew.
Oh, the line that I loved was after she, performed her masquerade, all right, at Yul Brynner's behest.
Yeah.
All right. He looks at her and with admiration goes, "Yes, all women are actresses."
Yeah, that was right. Yeah.
Before we move off from this movie, I will bring up a part that I thought was absolutely delicious. All right. I hate the fact that you have to preface shit like this nowadays. So it's not the fact that she's a woman. It's the
Do
fact
a deep dive on it, Quentin.
It's the fact that she's a character. She's a character, and I'm interested in the character. She's making a calculated ploy. She admits to Kirk Douglas that she's not a lady of quality. She admits to Kirk Douglas that she's a maid, but she doesn't admit to Yul Brynner. She presents herself as, lady ba 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 ba. All right,
Yeah.
She's one of the quality people of the ship, and and she's got the the demeanor and the looks to pull it off, and the manners to pull it off. She thinks she's fooled him or convinced him.
She thinks that's going to keep her alive.
Yeah. And she think, oh, okay, no, I'm his emerald.
Yes.
He's a dirty pirate, and I presented myself as a shining green emerald, and he's going to be precious with his emerald. And the moment that is kind of amazing is when Yul Brynner is killing people, and then she jumps up as if she has some say. No. I am asking you not to do this because I am the number one lady here, and I am requesting from my master that he doesn't do this to keep the queen happy. And he basically looks at her, "Who the fuck do you think you are, and who the fuck do you think you are to me?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you how little a shit I give about you."
Now you get to be the queen of tragedy.
Yes. And that was it.
I care so fuck all about you. I'm going to throw you to the crew.
Yeah.
All of this may be good, but it's not Jules Verne.
Fuck that. And I didn't want Jules Verne. I didn't want to watch fucking Journey to the Center of the Earth. I wanted to see fucking Die Hard before Die Hard. And we're back, and we suggest that you buy all those lovely products. And back again is Gala with her take on Jules Verne's Light at the Edge of the World.
Can we just call it Kevin Billington's Light at the Edge of the World?
I'm happy to. I think Kevin Billington should have had a magnificent action career that was thwarted, all right? But this movie bears the tale.
I really appreciate you standing up for the book nerds, though. Like, I feel them coming through you, through like all of this, like, he will avenge us.
And I don't know that anybody would even care, but this is one where there's a significant enough transformation that I think takes the work into the the realm of this is the auteur's film.
There is a long-standing tradition, like especially in Japan, between manga and anime, that they can be two completely different things.
Sure.
The source material always will exist.
In fact, they should be two different things, and it's so frequently in anime, right? Like they almost intentionally do changes.
You will always have Jules Verne's
I can always curl up with it at night.
Quentin will always have the movie. You guys can find a happy medium in between.
Well, we kind of had that last night when we watched the movie.
Yeah, we watched the movie. It was only later you drew sides.
I don't think Roger is as committed emotionally as he's pretending. I think he's just he finds an interesting thing and he's explaining the interesting thing.
No, I think he is as emotionally invested. If I'm going to be honest, knowing my dad, I find this movie unnecessarily violent. I find the animal violence, you guys have already talked about it. I don't need to beat a dead horse. Literally, though.
He's not dead per se. We don't know that.
The monkey sure is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mario the monkey did not get what he deserved. That's all I'm going to say about that. I do not like animal violence in movies. Other than that, the movie kind of put me to sleep. I'm going to be honest.
Oh, wow.
I watched it in the middle of the day. The ocean was crashing. The music was going. For the whole first half, I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Like, I don't want to. This movie is not.
A lot of running around on the rocks of Catechaz.
Finally, the movie picked up for me once Samantha Eggar shows up. But it was like an hour and 20 minutes too late.
Now, was there an aspect about because you liked her so much in Demonoid that you were excited about? That might
have been it. I really loved her in Demonoid. I had never seen her in a movie, I believe, before Demonoid. And I was really excited to watch her in this. And then she kind of just didn't show up. And I did like her in this. That's for sure. I thought she had a strong portrayal. And I actually really liked her and Kirk Douglas's relationship in this movie. Although it very, very thin and brief. I love that she's going along with Yul Brynner's plan. Like, why would you go along with the pirate's plan? You have an opportunity to escape at one point.
She's very too stupid to live.
She's very too stupid.
She's actually making calculated choices that don't work out. She's not being a dingbat. She's making calculated choices on her own charm.
She is making calculated choices on her own charm, and I think that is the part where I find it. She is overhyping her charm. Like, she thinks a little bit too well of how much her charm is going to carry her through this. And that's just arrogant.
And I would also say that, like, her reasons for not going with Kirk Douglas, they sound absolutely perfect for her character. So what? I'm supposed to hide in caves? I'm sleeping in a warm bed. They're feeding me warm food. I'm supposed to eat fucking eagle eggs with you? Fuck that shit. I'll take care of I'll handle myself.
By the way, being with Kirk Douglas does not help the monkey. Being with Kirk Douglas does not help the captain. Being with Kirk Douglas doesn't help anybody.
It would have helped her. He would have stashed her in the cave that they never found, and he would have handled everything on his own.
I mean, fair, actually. But I still think, like, I'm not even saying I blame her for her decision, and I understand the calculus. She's just using some bad equations. You know what I mean?
I think it's good character choices and made great drama.
I think there's a kind of gleeful embracing of cruelty that seems to have permeated the entire production for good and ill.
This is the dichotomy of this podcast of bloodthirsty Quentin. All right. Loving how violent the pirates are. Loving the gang rape and loving the evisceration and yanking out intestine. All of that. Okay. I love that. And then the gentle Avery.
Wait a second. I don't have anything wrong with the violence, the movie violence in the movie. I have only wrong with the real violence in the movie. That's where I draw my line.
I think the only thing
the unnecessary real violence.
What we presume to be real.
The only real violence that's in there is when the horse does a running W.
Yeah, and actually, you said you were going to explain this. Maybe you can explain the running W. What is that?
Okay, what a running W is, it's a device we used in movies in America for a long, long time until the 60s. And in the 60s, it got outlawed, but they still continued doing it in Europe and Asia. What it is if you've ever seen a movie where a cowboys or Indian is like riding full on out and then the horse gets shot out from under him and kind of does a somersault as the guy falls. You've seen that shot.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's only one way to do that. The way you do it is you attach a metal cable to the front of the horse's leg.
Oh.
And you take the other end of the cable and you attach it to the ground. And you just ride the horse out full on. And you full on until the cable reaches its end. and it yanks the horse. It yanks his leg out from under him, and he does a somersault, and he goes ass over tea kettle that way. That's the only way to do it. Anytime you've ever seen it, that's how it was done.
Well,
and it was done.
It should be a mic drop moment.
And it was done on a light at the edge of the world. That is absolutely how they did it in that scene. Now, definitely a lot of horses broke their leg when that happened, and they had to be put down. Oddly enough, in America, not as many horses broke their leg as you would have imagined, as barbaric a process as that is. Frankly, because in America, they were actually more committed to the horses than they were in Europe, and they kind of figured out how to do it to some degree or another. Like, for instance, William Whitney was making Westerns from the 30s on, and he did running W's, and they asked him about running W's, and he said that, yeah, he did enough in his day. He never killed a horse. He never broke a leg. He never had to put one down. However, he is very, very happy and grateful that running W's have been eliminated from American filmmaking. And the way that they did it I think they just figured out how to do it. They figured out how fast to run the horse to still get the same effect. And they knew where the end point was going to be. So they dug up the ground in a big, big way. Yeah. So when the horse does hit somersault, it's doing a somersault in powder.
Well, we do see that this horse in this movie does land. I did notice it landed in a very heavy, powdery,
like it puffed up,
billowy.
Yeah.
Either way,
well, but still, it was shocking.
Look, that's how you do it. Nevertheless, the thing about it is, even if the animal doesn't break its leg, it's being terrified. It's being brutalized. It doesn't know this is. You're almost taking a horse that has committed its life to service to the human race. It's a violation of the trust that a horse gives human beings to do something like that. It's scaring the shit out of them. It's terrifying them, and it's completely brutalizing them. So even if they survive it, it's just nothing to be done to an animal. Especially a horse.
I agree completely.
Okay, but that was only one sequence towards the end. How did you feel?
But I gotta be honest. It's like once animals begin to, I am that person. You don't kill the dog around me. I begin to check out. If there's not something else immediately grasping and touching in the movie, I had nothing to hold on to. I had nothing necessarily to root for. So I think the movie was just lost on me.
The thing is, when care has been taken to invest you into something, and then they kill it, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Okay, once you know how to manipulate me, you know how to affect me.
Yeah.
But man, it is just, he's taking everything that I love and he's killing it gleefully.
Gleeful. That's the kicker. It wasn't even some of the more violent stuff I've seen. It's almost like they recoil from their own horrors, right? Like it's not like they're not going to show it to you, but there's a certain level of like, yeah, we know we're showing you the underbelly of evil. This one was like, dial it up, kiddies, and eat up. This is fun. You know what I mean? Like,
I still go back to that scene when Yul Brynner pours the wine.
True.
There was not a fucking sound in that room because you guys were riveted.
And one of the reasons we were is because of all the brutality that happened before that. I'm not going to pretend that that's not true, because you did not know if he was going to be...
He could have sliced her up the middle like it was fucking like dressed to kill.
Yes.
He could have fucking married her. You don't know what the fuck's going to happen.
Well, also, besides that, Yul Brynner himself is just magnetic.
Yeah.
All
it's
he
hard to
has
take
to
your
do,
eyes off of him.
when he just lifts his cape or whatever and kind of does a half rotation and pivots on his feet, you have to watch him. When there's an actual true emotional moment that's occurring and Yul Brynner is doing his thing, it's riveting.
I would actually say the best line, the most memorable line of the night was when Kirk Douglas is thrown at the feet of Yul Brynner. And he sits in his throne and looks down at him. And Kirk Douglas says something. Do I detect an American accent? I like Americans. We had such fun during the fun times of the slave trade.
That was exactly right. I remember that too. And the way he said that too, you're like, oh yeah, we're supposed to hate you. Yeah. I get it. And he lit up like it was Christmas. No, that was a lot.
So I watched The Light at the Edge of the World on a website called kinonow.com. This movie is not available for streaming on Amazon or iTunes, etc., but on kinonow.com you can watch it. And I bought my VHS tape for $2. It is the same Ace Video, which I have to say is a beautiful box. But Quentin, you said you were going to talk a little bit about Ace Video earlier.
You were right. It's a terrible transfer. Well, look, there's been worse transfers. Like the picture quality is a little ghostly, but not horrible.
There was no logo at the beginning. Okay, company logo.
It starts off with no logo whatsoever. So it says on the back, Ace Video, and you got to think Ace Video kind of knows a little bit of what they're doing for the simple fact that they've got such a magnificent looking box.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, the poster is gorgeous.
Yeah. But the movie just starts like abruptly as if it's like into the opening credit sequence. And not only that, this is obviously, they got a textless 16 millimeter print that was cut for television. All right, because I have seen this movie before, and as violent as you guys think it is, it's even more violent. When Felipe, who we get to love in a very short amount of time, we get to really like the dude, when he's captured by the pirates and they tie him by his feet and hang him by his rope, and they're slicing at him, a shot is left out, and it's one of the shots of the movie. And it really, and this is the sequence where the gore actually really does storytelling, because what they leave out is they cut to him once, they cut to him twice, they cut to him a third time, and that's the third time is what they cut out. They've actually eviscerate him. They pull out his intestine, and they pull it out. But it has a powerful effect in the movie, not just because it's gore, because you realize the extent of how bad these guys are. They're not just stabbing people under their arm and people are going, oh, and falling down. No. They're butchering them. And it immediately puts fear in your heart for Kirk Douglas, because you realize, oh my God, this is horrible.
Yeah, we get that anyway.
No. The evisceration is a loss. It's an absolute loss.
I'm not saying that it isn't, but I'm saying I still was able to gather that general message.
I think I would have taken the organ evisceration over the monkey.
I'm sure you would.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you would. But now, okay, but then it gets worse than that. There is this weird part that happens about 30 minutes into the movie where apparently when they were doing the transfer, they were probably doing a few other transfers around the same time.
They had line noise.
And they had line noise attached to their audio cables. So you hear the soundtrack to another movie.
Oh, gosh.
Playing.
Yeah, at one point.
Yeah.
Video.
And it's comedic, whatever it is.
This like the soundtrack for another movie playing very, very low underneath our movie, to such a degree that it's as if one of the pirates is watching TV.
Yes.
In the background.
It's like one of the pirates, and they're just not showing the pirate watching TV, but it's the same effect as if a TV was just on in an apartment.
Yep.
All right, playing off screen.
This is the dark side of a VHS presentation.
Yeah.
And also, too, like I said, I want to be clear. That was probably a romantic comedy. Like, it felt so comedic. Like, I could
at some point they start singing, "You gotta have heart, miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of heart."
See what you guys get when it's video and not streaming.
So I have a question for you, though, on the streaming. Do you think you got the crazy choppy version, or do you think you got it all the way through? Because yours may have been more violent.
Did you get the evisceration?
No, I don't think I got the evisceration. I think it was just him being lifted up by his leg on the pirate ship and killed. I don't believe I had the evisceration.
But here's the thing, though. It's a goddamn fucking shame that Kevin Billington did not do more action movies. It seems like he did poncy British stuff or poncy British comedies.
Yeah, it looks like he was doing a lot of specials with like Peter Cook and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the photography in the movie at all, because I just think it's counterintuitive to be in such a pretty place and not shoot the photography for beauty.
Yeah.
To some degree, but
especially when you're in Catechaz. I mean, these are the rocks that inspired all of the paintings of Salvador Dali.
These shots should be magnificent, and they're functional, and they work in a pulpy way, but they just don't work in a beauty way, because Henry Decal is not bringing, that's not his intention.
Yeah.
But there is a genre aspect to the way he's playing with the foreground of the hills and the foreground of the horizons and the pirates in the background and Kirk Douglas in the foreground, and forget about all the fucking physical shit that Kirk Douglas does. It's a magnificent physical performance. He's climbing up these fucking rocks like a billy goat from the beginning of the movie to the end.
Yeah.
Completely. He's running around barefoot half the time.
Yep.
He's got, and also Yul Brynner riding around on that beautiful white Arabian horse.
We haven't even
beautiful unicorn horn.
With the unicorn horn.
We haven't even talked about
his horsemanship is incredible.
We haven't talked about how fucking exciting it was watching Yul Brynner ride that horse full on out on dubious fucking rocky terrain.
Yeah, I was looking at it, it's like, how are they doing it?
If he wipes out, he is fucked
in
up.
that flowy costume too. This is no protection whatsoever, and he's basically in the costume from The Mummy. No.
I mean, this is like in the days when if you were an actor, you had to know how to handle a horse. These guys, it's incredible. It's he and the horse are one, which makes me think that horse is so beautiful. It's like a white Arabian. There's no way. I'm sure that they're taking care when that horse belongs to somebody who cares about it.
Yeah. I mean, I hope nothing happened to it.
No, I'm sure. You see him moving around.
Yeah. But
I think he jumps back up.
But see a lot of things moving around. Quentin.
He's supposed to die in the movie.
He
dies within the movie. Everything dies in the movie.
Everything dies, except for Kirk Douglas. Legitimately,
I'm sure if the movie went on another reel, he would have died as well.
Absolutely,
suicide, just like Jules Verne.
He died of scurvy.
But the other thing too, though, on that horse, where look at a modern Western now, where they can barely show an actor like just sitting on the horse for like 2 seconds, and then look at what Yul Brynner does, where these are like long sweeping shots. This is not any kind of camera work. He just, literally could be on a
Jamie Foxx riding a saddleless horse.
Oh, yes, Quentin. We know you made Jamie do it.
Full-on Gala. I got a review to read for Light at the Edge of the World. Back from 69 to 74, Joe Dante used to write reviews for for Film Bulletin.
Oh, wow. What a treat. This is a Joe Dante written review?
Joe Dante written review. Now, the thing about it is Joe Dante writes in a style very, very reminiscent of Jim Shelton. All right.
Right up your alley.
Yeah. He's not... He's not quite as rude, and he's not quite as sarcastic, even though he's definitely sarcastic. He's Joe Dante. Light at the Edge of the World. Though a title like Jules Verne's The Light at the Edge of the World promises adventure in the traditional science fiction vein, this Spanish-U.S. co-production is a strictly mundane pirate picture which piles sadism upon violence with no particular skill or style. Despite better than average marquee factors in top-billed Kirk Douglas, who also produced, Samantha Eggar, and Yul Brynner, the national general release is best suited to saturation playoffs on dual bills in action houses and drive-ins.
Wow.
Although 6 minutes of violence has been snipped, rather noticeably, from prints, what remains is still pretty grim going for the family trade this will attract. The carnage count is way up there, with one massacre, a dismembered hand, a decapitation, and unaccountable characters impaled on flaming lances, crushed on rocks, shot between the eyes, strangled, spiked, stabbed, skinned, slashed, bashed, and otherwise mauled, topped off by something you don't often get in pictures, even these days, a 20-man gang rape.
Says the guy who gleefully kills everybody in Piranha.
Such bloodletting may please the bloodthirsty action fans, but the GP rating must be deemed misleading for the juvenile segment of the family trade, who might be expecting something in the more traditional Jules Verne vein.
That's fair.
Kevin Billington directs it all in deadpan fashion, whereas a little humor wouldn't have hurt. Performances are okay. Henri Deca's mobile camera work and the blue skies and waters of the Spanish coastal locations are attractive.
He's right.
I think he's totally right, though. I mean, if I was a mother bringing my child to the movies, I would not want to bring him to this one.
Yul Brynner's just eviscerating everyone.
Well, my dad did bring me to this in 1971.
And we did. Results.
How old were you, Quentin?
Well, whatever age I was in 1971. All right,
10 or 12. 15.
No, not 15. All right,
22.
Like 12.
12, 10, 12.
11 or 12.
Yeah.
I was in third grade. We go right into the third movie. Again, normally our third movie is the more exploitation-y kind of thing. And the movie this time is brought to you from, and I'm happy to finally do a full-on Paragon Home video, Hostages, directed by René Cardona Jr. This is jumping off a little bit from our appreciation for Demonoid as well, because this also exists as a movie from the Mexican exploitation genre. Okay, hostages. Terror strikes the Caribbean casinos. A pack of well-organized criminals simultaneously rob 3 island gambling palaces and escape with a fortune in cash and gold. One of the groups invades a wealthy household and takes an entire family hostage, and a reign of terror begins. That's true. Filmed in Spain, Italy, Venezuela, Mexico, and Panama. Not to mention Puerto Rico, which they don't mention. Running time, this is great. Running time, approximately 94 minutes. Like, it's not like we can actually know exactly how long our tape is.
I mean, I guess they want you to know, though. Like,
approximately. It's a 90-minute movie. René Cardona Jr. is more or less, he's the Roger Corman of Mexico. He's a very fun director. Probably has actually, along with Buñuel, probably directed more Mexican movies that have played in America theatrically than any other Mexican director. One of the most popular exploitation movies that ever is played at the New Beverly. Every time we play it, it does well, is his Jaws movie, Tintorera.
Oh, yeah, Tintorera.
Yeah.
I just had a really wonderful conversation with Alfonso Cuarón in Rome. I was at the Rome Film Festival and he was there. And I had just seen a René Cardona Jr. movie, so I just brought it up to Alfonso and he goes, "Oh yeah, that's a really good movie." And we had 30 minutes talking about René Cardona Jr. And then a couple of Italians tried to get in on it. They go, "Who is this guy?" You know, and then I go, "Well, he's like Antonio Margheriti." And Alfonso goes, "Yes." I go, "But he's better than Margheriti." Yes, he's better. But he's not as good as Leone or Bava. No, he's not as good as he's in the middle between Margheriti and Corbucci and Bava. But he's damn talented. And anyway, I'm happy to see anything of his. This is one of those ones where I go through the exploitation stuff and I'll put it on and I'll watch it for about 15 minutes to see how interesting it is. And if it's really cool and it's interesting, okay, stop it. Save that for Roger. Yeah. I'll watch it with me and Roger. And then so we watched Hostages, and man, oh man, was this a fucking action movie.
So I had no expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about the movie. It was like watching a William Friedkin action sequence, but for an entire movie.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. It had the pace of
That's
that.
Exactly what it felt like. What would be in a William Friedkin movie a 12-minute sequence or a 13-minute sequence? It's the entire movie.
Like, if William Friedkin decided to make a movie about a bunch of terrorists that went into the house in Roma.
Yeah.
Right on.
Which is like, I was thinking, because I thought about Alfonso Cuarón when I was, you had mentioned
it could have been the house in Roma. It could have been the house in Parasite.
Yeah. And it wasn't even trying to talk about that, but it was there.
It was there.
It actually subtly talked about all of that because, I mean, when I was young, I lived in Mexico. And when we lived in this place, Ajijic, it was exactly like Roma. Mm-hmm. And so I was watching this movie, and when they suddenly, these revolutionaries who,
they're crooks.
Well, that's what revolutionaries do to finance the revolution.
But that's not the case here. They were just money-grubbing crooks. No. They act as if they're a Bader Meinhof terrorist group, but they're not. They're just about robbing casinos.
I guess that Nada-looking one,
Nadia,
Or maybe some of them I think are about the cause. Like, I do think the chick...
Well, the cause is fuck the rich.
I mean, yeah. Like, I mean, but to the point, within that group, I think there's varying degrees. Like, I think the 3 that we spend the most time with just wanted the money. Mm-hmm. But I do think there's other people in there that really did think, like, hey... this is really going to, eat the rich.
Well, the fact that there's this massive, crime gone wrong.
Yes.
And everything...
crime gone right. They actually get away with the fucking money.
Well, they get away with it, but they've had to split up, and people are getting caught, and a few are getting away, and we've lost our car, and we have to actually walk through the rich neighborhood with our machine gun.
Yeah, after this big, gigantic robbery happens, so the Stuart Whitman, who leads the cops, and then Hugo Stiglitz, they're pulling a dragnet. So they're going to arrest everybody all at one fucking go. And it's one of the exciting things of the movie that all this happens. So you're able to do all this really fun cross-cutting because there's always something going on. And it seems like there's never a time dissolve. Yeah. It always just seems to be happening at this
in
minute.
real time.
Yeah. Well, because there's about 4 different parallel stories between when they split up from the big group of 8, I think is what it starts off in the beginning. And then I don't want to like pass over too. There's also an inspector, and he's basically Walter Matthau in Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that's Store Women.
Yeah. Like he's very much just like, okay, I'm going to be this. And I think between him and Hugo Stiglitz, the two of them, I just love their sort of
me too.
like...
Well, it's like they had Stuart Whitman for like under a week.
5 days.
And so we got him in a room for the whole movie on the CB or whatever, talking to all the other cops.
Yeah.
And then we've got him for our one final action scene at the airport.
In a way, it matches our film Cocaine Cowboys as far as like, this is actually pretty fucking plausible, what's going on here. In a movie full of wildness, this is actually completely plausible, where 3 of the most desperate, meanest motherfuckers of the entire
the baddest
group.
Of the bad ones, the leader and the other...
And the 2 most violent.
Yeah.
And the brothers.
Yeah.
2 brothers who are the most violent, like brothers right out of a Peckinpah fucking film. So they're in like a Bel Air. They're in the Puerto Rican version of Bel Air.
Yeah, very much so.
And you see some rich Bel Air fucks, all right, driving through, and one rich young girl, drinking champagne, and throws a champagne bottle behind her because she's a rich fuck. All right, who cares? That's what rich fucks do.
Smashes on the ground.
And so smashes on the ground, and they drive over it, and it gives them a flat tire.
Trapping them in the rich neighborhood.
And well, it ends up trapping them because they have stolen the car. And the way they stole the car is they ripped out the ignition. Yeah. So they don't have a key that can get to the spare tire that they don't even know if the car has.
Yeah, it's like the fruit of the capitalist pigs is exactly what has
so now,
trapped them.
They're holding machine guns and they're stuck in Bel Air on foot.
Yep.
And so they have to just keep moving. And then finally they decide the best thing to do is just take over a house, do a desperate hours, lie low until nighttime, and then possibly sneak out.
Yeah.
And that's the idea. And so then they take over the house of Francisco Rabal, from Sorcerer and many other Italian movies. They take over his house, which is a full house. He's got a lovely wife played by Marissa Mel. All you fans of Danger Diabolic, she's the star. And her hot sister.
Yeah.
And they're a 14-year-old or 13-year-old private school.
The maid and cook.
Yeah. And the maid and the cook. And they hold them under hostage. And then eventually the cops on the outside start realizing that they're holding them hostage, and then a siege happens.
But the thing is, it isn't just anybody's house that they went into. They went in the house of the industrialist capitalist pig.
Yeah.
Who is basically...
He's the president of a tobacco company,
the president of a cigarette company, a tobacco company in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and you actually see like the
only thing worse would have been making it like a sugar plantation owner.
Yeah. You actually see the line of the factory, all right? You're rolling the cigarettes and stuffing the tobacco in, which is actually really cool.
And then suddenly we're presented with something of a conundrum as an audience member, at least for me as an audience member, which is, am I rooting for the industrialist pig cigarette manufacturer and his family?
Well, of course you are.
And I know I am, but
he's a good man. At least the way he handles his family. He handles the situation.
Yeah,
he handles everything well.
He's not a pussy. He's not, but he doesn't try to get too much.
Except at the very end. I think that's...
While his family's getting on the plane, he runs.
No, you guys misread that. He heard the brother say, well, once we get in the air, I'm going to fucking kill that bitch. He didn't say those in those words, but it was like, I'm going to take care of shit.
Okay.
Right.
And that's when the father made his move.
Oh, so you're saying he did it to protect...
Yes,
oh, so
because he knows, oh, shit, once they get in the air, he's going to fucking kill my daughter for killing her brother.
Oh, I see. Okay. Maybe. I just thought he was trying to get away at that moment. And like, just because of the way he looked back like he was saying.
No,
like,
he was luring him away because if he runs, the guy's going to go after him, and that presents a situation for the cops to kill the other guy.
Well, this is perfect moment for maybe a rewatch. I just have to point out one quick thing, though. Let's talk about the girl that I knew was dead the minute she showed up.
Oh,
so
there's a friend of the
there's a
sister.
friend.
Yeah.
And like any movie like this, like you obviously, it's been very brutal. There's tons of on the side stories. The one thing they very much established is that anybody could die because we got very invested in some of these side characters, and then they would die. Like the girl that like literally gets squashed by a bus. It was just brutal, and we literally followed her literally through the movies. But
we got our entrails shot by there.
Very realistic death.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When she gets knocked, and then when they cut to her and her intestines have all kind of exploded out of her body. It's
absolutely to the point where we had to rewind to make sure like that's what it was, because it was like that sort of like visceral to see. But when she shows up and is just like not listening to anybody, she shows up, she's just like, oh my God, I'm just coming over anyway, girl. First of all, I thought in that moment, I don't care what time of life it is, any friend of mine just invites themselves to my house, like, no, you deserve the electric chair. Like, no.
But like one of the things is
I actually did not mind that she died. She got
seriously.
She literally was asking for it.
Does anybody outside of maybe your like overly intrusive mother, and even then, like, no.
But these are truly the idle rich. What are they doing all day long? They are people. It is in the morning. It's before school. The girl hasn't even gone to school yet. They haven't come to pick her up. And people are driving around drinking champagne and throwing the bottles away because they've been out partying all night long.
And this movie did a clever trick, though. They let us spend time with the family before we got to the heist. I think for this exact reason, because otherwise we had absolutely no case, I feel, to be emotionally attached to any of them by the time we're getting to the climax where they're trying to get away on a plane and you're just hoping that the bad guy's eyes dim out before he realizes that the jig is up. We had to spend that early time with them.
The movie opens in a disco and and it's the family.
Yeah.
And you actually get to know everybody and you actually have a sense about them.
Yeah.
And they're not all perfect. There's like, you know, little minor tiffs and betrayals between them, but you experience this family the same way you would if they were like in a sitcom or something.
Yeah.
You immediately get invested in who
But
they
also,
are.
I think Francisco Rapal is a terrific actor, and I think he has a lot of empathy. And I think
he's wonderful. He's a great actor.
I think he brings you to his humanity very easily.
I completely identified with this movie because literally, like that house in Roma, I lived in that house as a boy. Like the little kid in that even looked like me. It was weird, like, and it took place in the years that I was there. I mean, I remember PRI and marching the streets and stuff like that. It was like, that was what the time period was like. And so when I saw this, I got transported into Roma somehow and thereby into my life. And then suddenly the criminals were there and they had everybody, being held hostage. What this movie did to me was it put me on this kind of crazy roller coaster because on one hand, I was watching this indictment of the ruling class. And on the other hand, we've got a bunch of guys who are just freaking savage villains. I mean, these guys are villains.
You guys keep treating them like they're terrorists. I think it's obvious that they're just criminals. They're just crooks. They were about stealing the casino.
I mean, but that's still not people I want to necessarily like rub elbows with.
The weathermen and people like that, the reason they would rob banks and stuff like that is so that
you can make that. I'm not saying that I think the imagery suggests that, but nothing in the plot suggests that. They just robbed the casinos. But look,
again,
it doesn't
the
matter.
Casinos,
you can take that. And
the casino being the playground for the wealthy and the rich. It's like they're specifically. It's
well, I think in this Latin American country, they just kind of hate the rich, and anything the poor can do against the rich is considered okay.
Well, this is just where the money is. That's going to be where the rich people are. You know what I mean? Like,
I would agree with that. Except that the hostages that they take, did all the details of the cigarette factory. The champagne bottle is the dead giveaway.
Yes.
Because that story-wise, metaphorically, is literally, ha ha ha! Like, you even said that when you were describing, ha ha ha! And smashing the bottle. And that's what derails them.
Everything you're saying is correct.
I think parts of it are purposeful, but I think overall, like I said, I think it's more divided. It's a little bit.
Well, I hope it's purposeful because that's actually what I love about the movie is this conversation that the filmmaker is having about class.
I think that's happening. I just don't think it's reflected in the characters' motivations.
Right.
But, at the same time, while the movie's paying attention to that, it's also a pretty goddamn good procedural as far as like how a major city conducts a dragnet.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to, is it the eldest daughter or the sister?
She's the sister of the wife.
Okay, sister of the wife.
The blonde girl.
The blonde girl, who shot one of the bad guys. I loved her. It's like, that was so random.
She's my favorite of the hostages.
Hand
Absolutely.
behind her back, and she was like, I'm still absolutely going to shoot the hell out of you. And was pretty like pissed through most of it.
Oh, she did not give a quarter at all in that whole fucking film.
Not sure that'd be my strategy. Little scared for her, but I appreciate the moxie for sure.
I liked her from the very beginning in the disco scene.
There's one moment that maybe flies in conflict with everything I'm saying, which is when things get bad, they're like, oh, we're going to kill somebody. They just turn, and instead of killing somebody who would make sense, they kill the maid.
That was the only thing, too, that death, I'm like, that actress must have like not been able to come back.
No, on one hand,
she's on the box. All right, that's the maid on the box. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I mean, on one hand,
what a fucking image.
Yeah.
I mean, on one hand, it's a movie, and so they're like eliminating the character who has not talked. On the second hand, they're killing the working class person.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Who's there, and so that does fly in the face of everything that I said.
They treat the maid and the cook like a piece of shit.
Yeah, and they didn't even care also about.
They don't treat the daughters like that. They give the daughter, by comparison, they give the daughters begrudging respect, even if they're mean to them.
You're cold. Oh, you want to get dressed? Okay, well,
you can go
ahead.
change. Yeah. No, but also, by the way, though, the other thing, so the grand finale is only one of the criminals makes it to the end, and he goes up in a plane, and he looks like he's getting away with it because the family's in there with him. The husband is down there, but it's the wife and the sister and the daughter. And the pilots are like, yeah, dude, like, we're your taxi. Where do you want us to go? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, if you want something, there's something to drink in the back. You can have it. And they've obviously drugged it. As the dude is passing out, he just starts shooting at the cockpit. Yeah. Like, he's not probably going to die. They're just probably, like, just drugging him to take him into custody.
He's going to go back to jail. Fuck that shit. No, I'm taking everybody down.
His whole thing is, we're all dead or we get away. One way or the other.
He says that, like, 3 or 4 different times in the movie. We either all make it or we don't make it at all. So, nobody makes it.
That's his thesis.
As he's getting caught, not dying, but as he's getting caught, he just starts shooting at the cockpit. And I'm just like, man.
Oh, and it's a tiny airplane. It's like you're in a tiny, like, Cessna-style airplane. So when he opens fire with what I think is a machine gun inside of that thing, everybody who's, like, in between the pilots and him, like all these the family, are jumping to the side of the plane to get away from the machine gun fire as they have a shootout inside of the airplane.
In real life, maybe a few more people would have got shot.
Absolutely. And
well, as it is, enough people do get shot where it's like it increases the jeopardy. It tightens the rope.
Yeah, because the pilots get shot, and then mom gets her moment by landing the plane. And I will admit, look, it was great. It was a great setup of tension, but I just wanted that plane on the ground. That's like the moment when my anxiety comes up because I was just like, oh my God, just land it. And like Roger and Quentin were like, this is hard, right?
It's like and they're handling it realistically.
No, they actually handle the landing of the plane as realistic. Of all the movies, and I've seen a lot of movies where people have to talk somebody who's never flied down on the ground. I've never seen it done as realistically as this.
Yeah, where there's a couple of missed passes, a failed bouncy land.
It was very authentic.
He's doing a really good job. Okay, let's just do it all over again. Let's just start again. Let's do another approach.
It was very authentic, but I was just ready for it to be over. I was like, and that was a physical manifestation of being like, land. But that's a testament.
And that just shows you the power of a movie that is approximately 94 minutes. Talk about bang for your buck. There's never a moment in this movie where something isn't happening. Yeah. And again, it's all action filmmaking. So everything is on the run. Yeah. There's never any planning or any talking or setting anything up. It's all on the run. Everything is going on. Exposition.
It's in real time.
Exposition is on the run. And so there's a whole fabric of things going on at a certain time. But then at some point, it all settles on the hostage story. But it took a while before it settles on them. By the time it does, now that's what you care about. And now that's where the movie is.
Yeah.
It's like a criminal version of a mad world in a lot of ways. Because you have your own little mini adventures. They're all trying to get to the same thing. And there's alliances and breaks within it. 2 of our characters break apart at one point.
This is a fantastic movie. This movie could be remade easily.
Very much so.
Very much so.
I mean, you actually had a good pitch for the second film, you had a good pitch for that one. That could be remade. And that one actually really...
With Tom Hardy as the...
And I think you even said Fox.
Yeah, I said Jamie Foxx as the Kirk Douglas character and Tom Hardy
as the pirate.
Yeah.
Yul Brynner, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Gala.
Okay, Jackie, I loved Lisa's friend.
Yes.
That's my favorite part of the entire movie.
That's your favorite part of the movie?
Because I have a story about the movie, and you'll have to understand why that's my favorite part. But I love her just coming in and just being just a total just dumb girl, just like la 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 la. Time to have some champagne. La 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 la.
This girl never has a problem in her life.
From first glance, absolutely.
Jump Street.
But also, don't you just like feel the vibe of the room? Like read the room. No. Literally read the room, sis. Nobody is comfortable.
Obliviousness has a name.
This girl's on her third Mai Tai. It is 11 a.m.
What he's saying is the rich aren't reading the room of the country.
They are. I mean, listen. Also, forget that. Forget reading the room. There's just a certain level of person. Anyone listening to this right now, if you have anyone in your life who would come to your house after you tell them not to come to your house, I guarantee you wish that person was not like that. Like, you are not happy that there is a person in your life that decides to do that. And so, by an extension, you do not like that person.
Yeah, don't be Lisa's friend.
Exactly.
I loved it. I thought it was comedic and fun. I was really excited to see this after Demonoid because I love Demonoid. It's like another film in that same genre. It had Stuart Whitman, who I love Stuart Whitman, especially 7 Men From Now. I'm a huge Bud Buttercup fan. So, to anyone out there who is looking to watch this movie, it is also known as Under Siege. That's the title you'll probably find it under.
Yeah, I tried to do a little research on this, and I'm like after trying to read Lighthouse at the End of the World. I'm like, okay, I gotta do a little research on hostages. I only have like 3 hours before the thing. And I start looking it up. I'm hostages. Just like 20 billion hostages on IMDb. Which does not have a functional search.
There's the Wing Hauser hostage. There's the
I
Bruce
could
Willis
not
hostage.
find it. I started fucking Amazon as I was trying to search on it. Like, why can't I find it? And then Gala told me as we were driving here, well, you should have asked me.
Yeah, it's also called Under Siege. I believe it's the 1980. I believe that's when this movie came out.
80 is when I have.
So this movie is not available for streaming anywhere. There is a DVD of it.
That shows you how fucking good it is.
And that is why when I found a video on YouTube of the movie, I was incredibly excited. So excited that I watched a terribly desynced audio copy, which the audio was 3 seconds prior. So anytime anyone would scream, you'd hear them scream, then they would flail about.
Yeah.
3 seconds later.
Norwegian subtitles hard-coded in.
Oh, wow.
So I brushed up on my Norwegian during this movie. Unfortunately, I feel like my amazing YouTube version did not live up to the hype that was at this table. I still had a lot of fun watching it, though, despite the issues.
I will let you borrow my hostages.
Because, I'm going to thank you for that, because I also cannot find the VHS. This is the first time I've had this issue where I am unable to find a VHS copy of this. I'm going to...
my beautiful Paragon.
I know, and I'm staring. I'm drooling.
Cradle it, Quentin.
I know, I'm like
curl up with it tonight.
reaching for it and drooling
And
and
the rarity
at the
of it. The rarity of it. Listen now.
Quentin's Paragon home video VHS tape of Hostages has never looked so delicious to me right now as I'm staring at it across the table.
Like a little slice of cake.
Now, by the way, there's another title because actually when the movie, I think it's the Spanish or the Italian title of it, it would say hostages and underneath it, panic makers.
Okay, so
Panic Makers. That's right. Panic Makers. I forgot about that.
Maybe I need
did
to
see
look
that.
up Panic Makers, but I'm hoping by the time that this comes out, somewhere in the world, this will be available for streaming for everyone to watch. If not, go get the DVD. It sounds really fun.
Nice.
Now, before we move on, we'll wrap up the show, but before we move on, we have to go back to the tape of Hostages again, because this is a Paragon Home Video, and I'm a big fan of this company. They're a fun company, and one of the things I like about them is their crazy coming attractions that they have before their movie. And man, this is one of the big ones.
Yeah, this was a great.
This was
Ton of them.
a potpourri of magnificent VHS coming attractions. Only one of them, Molly and Lawless John, is like a cut down version of the actual theatrical trailer. Paragon would very rarely ever do normal trailers. They would just show the logo and then cut to scenes. So the movies that are listed on the Paragon Home video are Molly and Lawless John, which is a cheap American independent Western done in the 70s with a slumming Vera Miles and a mustacheless Sam Elliott.
Yeah, that's right.
Directed by Gene.
We noticed that.
Directed by Gene Nelson, who would later go on to direct The Black Hole. Then there's Hot Wire, what looks like a very bad car theft comedy, directed by a guy named Frank Q. Dobbs. And if that name sounds familiar, that's also the name of the character of Bogart's character in Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Oh, wow.
Okay, then there was the great trailer on the film, Menachem Golan's The Apple.
Oh,
Yeah.
His futuristic cult film movie, which as we're watching the trailer is so good, Roger said, why aren't we watching this movie?
Yeah.
Not only that, the song that they play in the trailer, the BIM song, hey, 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 BIM all the way. Hey, 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 BIM all the way. BIM all the way.
And that how that lead glam singer looks like
Yeah.
Garrett Graham
Yeah,
in
it looks
Phantom
like
of the
Garrett
Paradise.
Graham and the guy who plays cousin Kevin and Tommy.
And the idea of Menachem Golan making like a kind of dystopian 1984 future film that looks like, I don't know, Xanadu
I was going to say,
or
very
something.
Xanadu.
It's like,
yeah.
it's amazing.
Well, and a LaBelle concert.
I can't
very much
I can't
LaBelle.
wait to see this movie.
Literally, for 20 minutes at the beginning of Hostages, I just kept hearing the BIM song from The Apple playing in my head. I could not get rid of it, as if it was playing on a loop. Another film they have a trailer for, but this is a wannabe theatrical trailer. This is pretty much the full theatrical trailer of the Cliff Robertson movie, The Pilot, which he also directed. It's like his second movie as a director. His first movie was a movie called
Zemeckis' Flight.
J.W. Coop. And it looks like Flight, like down to every story point.
Really, yeah.
You know. Then, along with The Apple, the best of the trailers was a documentary about funny cars called American Nitro.
Which also looked amazing.
Which fucking looked rad.
Like I don't even like to see drag racing and stuff like that, but watching that trailer was like, wow, I might be interested in drag racing.
Also, very good.
If I can track down American Nitro on video, then that will be our first documentary that we do.
That should too.
American Nitro looks fucking badass.
Because it also feels like a very like period documentary that like you either had to catch when it came out on PBS or something like that, or even worse, like just at your
No,
local...
it's a documentary meant for drive-ins.
But I'm sure it probably got some TV time, don't you think?
Not on PBS.
Not on PBS.
No, sold to Channel 5 or something.
It looked like what Warren Miller was to skiing. This guy is to hot rods.
Yep.
Like so.
I mean, talk about fucking killer footage, man.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was like the footage was just blowing my mind.
No,
And
I mean,
definitely looked like some people died in the making of a lot of those scenes that they shot.
the second to the last film is a movie I have actually seen. It's called Ruckus in Maddox County. And it stars Dirk Benedict. Dirk Benedict, Linda Blair, and Ben Johnson. Movie's very interesting. It's a ripoff of First Blood, but it was made before the movie First Blood. How can it be a ripoff? Because it's a ripoff of the book. So the whole first 20 minutes is pretty much the setup of the book. As a matter of fact, Dirk Benedict at the beginning looks more like Rambo in the book than Stallone's Rambo. The way the character's described in the book is he looks like Steve Railsback in Helter Skelter walked into town. Right. And that's what Dirk Benedict looks like at the beginning. But then it turns into a rambunctious Southern comedy. It's a wild Jerry Reed, like rambunctious Southern comedy version
like
of
Boss Hogg and
yeah, exactly.
stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like a Dukes of Hazzard.
Them Duke boys.
It's like a Dukes of Hazzard version of First Blood at a certain point. And then it ends with, after his porno film Italian Stallion, a.k.a. Party at Kitty and Studs, Stallone's first movie where he's the lead. And it was actually, on video, the movie's called Rebel. It's actually not a bad film. The original title was No Place Today, or I can't remember the title.
I love how when I asked you, was this shot before or after Italian Stallion? You said, oh, this was shot the next day.
Yeah. This is absolutely the Italian Stallion Stallone. I mean, like the very next day.
Yeah.
And there's another really interesting badass actor named Anthony Page who's co-stars with Stallone in the movie. And go back to what we were talking about, hostages. This is a movie about a political terrorist.
Yeah.
This is Stallone gets involved in a bunch of political terrorism. All right, where they're dropping bombs. It's a total
they're like the weathermen,
hippie weathermen.
Yeah,
wow,
kind of situation. But it's not a bad independent film, and it's a pretty good version of a New York shoestring underground movie at that time. And Stallone is actually quite affecting in his role. But actually, when I saw the film, I saw in the 80s, and I saw the Rebel home video, and so I have 4 of Rebel on Paragon Home Video. I have Molly and Lawless John on Paragon Home Video. I have Hotwire on Paragon Home Video. And I have Eddie Brand's Saturday Matinee version of Ruckus. Not even called Ruckus in Bad Adam County, just Ruckus.
Oh, my God.
Okay, so let's hand out some awards.
Yeah,
here.
let's hand out some awards.
Yes.
We'll start with our guest. I'll make this easy for Jack. All right. So, best film, best director, best screenplay.
I mean, it's all Wilder.
Yeah, it is. And Diamond.
Here.
I'm with that as well.
Okay. So, best actor.
See, now this is the thing, though. We do have Yul Brynner.
Nice supporting actor. Supporting actor.
Supporting actor. Oh, this is for lead actor.
Wait. But his name is just as big as Kirk Douglas's on the box.
No, I know that. But villains are usually in Academy. Villains always get best supporting actor.
This is true. Yeah. I mean, I guess Stevens. Yeah.
Yeah, Robert Stevens.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sir Robert Stevens.
Yeah, I'll go with Stevens.
I mean, I personally would love to put Blakely and Stevens together, as best actors, because they're a couple, so to speak.
I agree, but just give it to Blakely then for best supporting. All right.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I will.
I will say Stevens as well.
No, I will not give it to Blakely. I will give him Best Actor along with Stevens because Christopher Lee is going to get my Best Supporting Actor.
Okay. Or maybe you just leave Blakely out.
I'm going to leave Blakely out. Blakely is...
hey, sometimes it's about making hard decisions. Sometimes it's about making hard decisions.
As Peter Goodchild, the head of the BBC drama, said, one of Britain's finest actors who has given some of his best work on television.
This is because we like Private Life of Sherlock Holmes so much that I think you need to make a hard choice and not just.
Well, then
we didn't do that for Mikey and Nikki. So and if ever there was a choice to make two actors,
fair enough. In that case, for his kids who are both actors, Toby Stevens and Chris Larkin, who was in Master and Commander, and I'm going to go ahead and do a shout out to their dad, Sir Robert Stevens, as the greatest actor of this week.
Okay, great. There's not much to choose from for Best Actress, all right?
So we have Eggers.
Yeah, we have Eggers. I mean, I would say that's more of a supporting actress.
True.
All right, I don't think we have a Best Lead Actress. Even Marissa Mel, all right, the wife in
Hostages.
In Hostages is still supporting.
Also supporting.
We have no.
We have none.
Okay, but now comes to the award that is actually in genuine contention, that actually there is competition, and that is Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say Yul Brynner for me.
Yeah, I mean, Yul Brynner is Yul Brynner. He has such power and strength. But Christopher Lee, who would have been cast as Mycroft, even against Peter O'Toole.
Yes.
Because he does live up.
And would have owned every piece of footage he has.
Because he doesn't need Watson to inflate him. He is Christopher Lee.
Quentin, I know he's a monkey, but Mario the monkey wins my vote.
Okay, I'm good. I'm down with Mario.
He gave more than any other actor gave.
He did give. He gave.
I am down with Mario the monkey.
It was a performance of a lifetime.
Man, it's really, really hard between Yul Brynner and Christopher Lee. That's really hard.
It's a tough one.
It's the only hard thing that there is.
Yes.
On these awards. I'm gonna go with Brynner, and I don't think I'm right. I think I'm wrong. But my heart says Brenner, even though my head says Christopher Lee.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
You know what? Your brain will lie to you. Your heart will. It may be wrong, but it will never lie to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
It made me a Yul Brynner fan. What the fuck else more can it do?
Yeah.
And this is what I would say. I arguably say that Christopher Lee has the harder performance in a lot of ways to pull off and to add to, and in certain ways it's more actorly because of what it's got to get done. It's a huge exposition dump, and he still manages to make it interesting.
That's a tour de force.
Yeah, and vibrant. But I can't, man.
And actually, maybe the one line that has stayed out that's not a plot line. Oh, I'm sorry. Is the greatest brain in England? Am I going too fast for you?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, very true.
I can see you saying that line.
Yeah, very true.
He just did.
Just you would convert the England part to L.A.
Yeah.
Best supporting actress.
Well, I'm going to say Samantha Eggar because I have in these weeks become such a big Samantha Eggers fan. And plus, she's making the choice to be in this movie where her character is thanklessly gang raped and killed in the end.
And, she's a good sport about it.
Yeah, and she's a good sport. Like, that is who Samantha Eggers is. Like, she's the actress who will go ahead and say, yeah, I'll do that. Hats off to her. I love her.
I'm okay if I'm wrong with it, but I really...
You really like the Belgian...
Jackie, you and I had the same idea because you grabbed the box before I could to grab her name.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not on there.
It is not on there, yeah.
Genevieve Page.
Genevieve Page. Yeah.
Genevieve Page, yeah.
I'm with her. Yeah, I like her. She not only that, don't get me wrong, I do think Samantha Eggers does a very good, incredible job with this, but I believe that she beguiled the great Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, you're changing my mind.
And
as much as I love Samantha Eggers.
And I'm thinking that the gravitas of the ending of the movie that we all arguably love a lot comes a lot from our ability to believe whether or not she could beguile.
The fact that in the end, even though it's not like he's capable of loving the fairer gender.
Yes.
But he, in the end, absolutely adores her as his equal.
Yes.
In every way.
That she
it's
was
lovely.
Able to
it's a
get
beautiful, beautiful moment.
Okay, here, I will make my big, gigantic point, and it is this. It is absolutely Samantha Eggers, all right, that wins for Best Supporting Actress. And the reason we're talking about all this is because as Samantha Eggers played that role in Private Life of Sherlock Holmes, she would be exactly what I think is missing from the movie. She would bring the star shine that the movie is missing.
Okay, I'm going to go with that.
Wait,
I love her.
But Quentin,
I'll go with that.
she didn't.
I know.
Using Quentin's logic.
No.
Who's the better actress?
My logic is she lacked oomph, and the three leads act oomph except for Colin Blakely. And exactly what they're lacking is what Samantha Eggers has. If she played the Belgian spy, bam.
Against Peter O'Toole.
In Quentin's movie.
No, I actually think, Robert Stevens could have benefited from her starshine.
I will agree with that, of course.
And
I'll agree
in a
with that.
universe where she did play that role, I would give it to her. But she didn't. So I'm
simply saying though, but she's a perfect illustration of my description of what I thought was deficient in the three leads.
And I don't disagree with you on some of your deficiencies, but I would say in spite of the deficiencies, I was still impressed and genuinely entertained by what she did.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. We're just talking about it.
Yeah. But actually, I agree with what you're saying. I do think that there is an element to her performance which is lacking that could have added depth to it and definitely added something more to the entertainment value of those three performances.
Yeah.
That being said, she's still my girl. I'm still riding it.
And also, I think she switches between accents flawlessly, if we're being honest.
Yes.
I think she does a great job. She's having to do multiple characters, and she's having to do a character pretending to be another character. I think she does a convincing job of it.
Yeah. I like that.
And is also beautiful to look at in her many beautiful outfits. And you never know.
She could have been trying to act up against somebody that was literally cracking up next to her. So who knows what she was dealing with? No,
she could have been causing the crack up.
Legitimately.
Cracking up next.
She could have been causing the crack up.
Legitimately, though.
I think Robert Stevens was like, oh my God, why isn't my wife playing this fucking role?
Hey.
There might have been that could potentially, we don't know, that could potentially have been an issue, a bone of contention that was causing problems. We don't know. Best cinematography, Christopher Chalice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or Private Life of Sherlock Holmes.
And I would say absolutely best production design.
Yeah, and absolutely best production design. And I'm just going to say best all-around cruelty I'm going to give to Light at the End of the World. Edge of the World.
I feel bad that Hostages didn't win anything.
Oh, Hostages absolutely.
Best action.
Well, no, it's won our admiration.
No, it has my special mention for the movie that made me the most anxious.
Yeah, right on.
It literally, like, if there's an Edge of the Seat award, it went to that one.
Let's give it.
Most
Actually,
realistic plane.
Let's give the Edge of the Seat award.
I would say, actually, best use of Zoom and handheld hostages.
For sure.
Yeah.
Bam.
Major?
Full on. They're doing a ton of work with the Zoom and the handheld, and they're just catching it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually another thing that we haven't mentioned about Hostages. The action in the movie doesn't seem that choreographed, but it doesn't have the nothing makes sense of just chaos.
Yeah.
All right. It manages to have a slight movie cool quality, but there is a chaotic aspect that it is being captured by documentary footage.
Those
by newscaster footage.
No, it feels like 7-Ups or something. When those car crashes happen and suddenly like a car, I don't know, goes into the water or something, it looks like it hurts.
Yeah.
It looks like that car hit.
It doesn't have a Hal Needham style. Okay, this is how the crash is going to work. No, it just looks like fucking chaos.
It's like
they didn't know what was going to happen to the car. When
hey,
they did
Sergio, drive that car into the lake.
What's so interesting is that a movie like this is absolutely what Robert was thinking about when he did El Mariachi, and then seeing what he was able to do with his first film with less resources. He's literally like cribbing so much of the like natural shot technique.
You might not even have to crib. It might just be the natural Mexican state of being.
In the DNA of the filmmaker.
Yeah. But either way, it's so...
machismo.
It's the machismo.
But it's so interesting looking at it. It's like when you see something that inspired something that you saw in the reverse order like that. I love that.
Billy Wilder is a master, and this is probably his last truly masterful film.
Altogether, yeah.
That he did, and it's a magnificent encore as far as that's concerned. Just classy in every way, but also just equally funny as any of his comedies, but in a different way.
Yeah.
And just in a gentler way. But also, I'm a big fan of René Cardona Jr., and I think introducing him to you guys, I think I picked a good one. I think he leaves us around with a lot of respect.
Absolutely.
I agree.
And that's it for the end of tonight. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Remember, be kind, rewind.
And thank you for Jackie for coming.
Thank y'all for having me.
The Video Archives podcast is hosted by Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery and produced by Josh Richmond and Gala Avery. Our engineer is Devin Torrey Bryant, and our executive producers are Colin Anderson and Natalie Mooallem. Find out more about the show by heading to videoarchivespodcast.com. You can also find us on Twitter at Video Archives and on Instagram at Video Archives Pod. Have you ever wanted to hear Mick Garris discuss the differences between original source material and the movies they become? Or Joe Russo's favorite gateways into horror? What about author Max Brooks and how he thinks that Minecraft will literally save humanity? Join me, reporter on the beat Gala Avery, as I get to the bottom of these topics on my new show, The Gala Show. In this weekly podcast, guests from Los Angeles and beyond have 30 minutes on the clock to bring whatever topic they want to the mic. So, tune in every Thursday for a new guest with an entirely new topic. The first episode drops October 26th. Available wherever you get your podcasts.